What up, everybody? Kyle here, and welcome back to another episode of Wrassling Around. It's been a long time since I've done one of these. Last time it was in a local Virginia indie superstar in the wrestling scene. There was a lot of superstars that have been on the show, but later on there will be another pro wrestler that is currently has a title match in upcoming days and facing a guest on that was a guest on the show back in when it was first started. StepDad, one half of the StepDad, Rad Dad Radley Belmont, will take on Grim at Clash in the White Castle for the legendary YouTube Heavyweight Champion. And for those GTS fans joining us, I welcome you. And if you have any questions to ask Rad Dad, leave them in the comments below and I'll read them aloud when he's in the studio, that is, you know. So how's everybody doing? Let me know. I've been doing good. Just just been done with with chores and stuff. But I cannot wait until Rad Dad Radley Belmont comes on the Wrassling Around podcast later today, later in this episode. Well, he is, in my opinion, the workhorse stepdad of GTS. I kind of just, to be honest, with the titles of these videos, the titles of these streams, sometimes I kind of feel like I'm running out of my creative ideas. Like, um, the workhorse stepdad of GTS, I just combined the names. You know, he was part of the stepdads, and now he's part, and he was a workhorse double crown, but now he's going to be possibly, we'll see at Clash of the White Castle if he defeats the main character, Grim. But it is also talk of a special guest referee that for the GTS crew, the GTS match. Well, to be honest, it could be anybody. It could be Ice T Curtis. It could be Papa Bear Wade Kruger, who apparently hasn't been on GTS in a while. Or it could be an OG like Jimmy Controversy, Shamar, Doo-Hop. Who knows? We'll have to find out at Clash of the White Castle. But the contract is set in stone when he when it's time. But enough about more on that later. So, in the wrestling world, I just watched NXT Battleground Las Vegas. Thought it was phenomenal. All those NXT talent that bust their ass to get where they are today from wherever they were before the Performance Center. And now some of them are current champions, like Kalani Jordan. Kalani Jordan, I barely even knew about. She was she was barely who was it, Ash by Elegance or Dana Dana Brooks protege, Dana Brooks protege back in NXT when she was around until her contract expired or released. And now I feel like Vic Joseph is basically kind of like doing that thing, like trying to blur the lines, where he said Ethan Page is like, "What's the fee from 8?" And then Booker T was like, "No, no, 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 wait, wait, wait." And then now in NXT Battleground, apparently it did it again, where he was like, "Oh, it stayed up. By Ash by Elegance." This is downright hilarious. It's like taking kayfabe and just playing hot potato with it, but throwing in a lot of real stuff with it. So I gotta say that there's a lot that is unpacked. That 6-woman ladder match with Kalani Jordan, Michin, Jada Parker. I'm trying to think who else was in there. Sol Ruka. So Kalani Jordan, Sol Ruka, Jada Parker, Michin. Actually, let me look it up here real quick. I just need to refresh my memory here. Oh, Fallon Henley, and there was that other superstar. What am I thinking the name? Huh. Let me look. Let me look at the card. Lash Legend. Okay, I knew I was forgetting somebody. I'll tell you right now, that match was a banger. Especially when Sol Ruka was doing her cutter off the ladder. That just blew my mind. It's also with the Lash Legend bump where they all kind of crowd surfed her onto the ladder. I feel like that was possibly those two were the highlights of the match overall. But there could be other highlights that you guys may not have pointed out. Next is Nathan Frazier and Axiom versus the OC. That match was good. Where I thought the OC was gonna win. I was betting on the OC. Oh, Jada Parker I was betting on. Not actually betting with money, but you know what I mean. But I gotta say, that match with the talents involved, beautiful. But Axiom and Nathan just retained. So I believe that they could lead NXT into the future. Especially Nathan Frazier. I have a ton of liking to Nathan Frazier. Not because he's from the UK or Jersey, actually. He's actually a pretty good wrestler. He was trained by Seth freaking Rollins. And I feel like his gear is somewhat inspired by him, since obviously he's his trainer and all. So I'll just say that. Next is Lola Vice and Shayna Baszler, the underground match. That match, you see, that was like playing with a concept back in the pandemic, where the Raw Underground match was like from 2021 ish, and then they tried to bring it back. They tried to bring it for a couple of episodes of Raw, until they kind of stopped. But I honestly think that this match, this Underground match, than NXT Underground, was better than the Raw Underground matches, to be honest. a lot of people didn't like the Raw Underground match, especially with the kind of like they were like with the women in the background they brought for one episode of Raw Underground. I mean, they were trying to go back to the Attitude Era, but honestly, right now, that is the right time to do it. It might be a little controversial, but I honestly think that is the right thing to do. But Lola Vice, I had my winning on, and I was right. Lola Vice knocked Shayna Baszler out, or at least won by TKO. I think it was TKO. Hold on, referee stoppage. So I would say so myself that Lola Vice, I honestly think that she has potential. All these people, all these women and men, all these superstars have potential to become something. But Lola, I mean, I love like her ring attire. That's kind of something new. I've seen it a couple times before, but Lola's is kind of different. But Shayna Baszler, I think Shayna Baszler's kind of being some type of talent that they like established talent that they're just throwing there that possibly lose. It's like a I wouldn't say a jobber, but I would hold on. I wouldn't say a jobber, but I'll say like enhancement. That's the word. That's more proper. That's more positive than a jobber. It's enhancement talent. So I like Shayna Baszler. I wanted her to win at WrestleMania 36 when she when she was going against when she was going against Charlotte Flair. Or no, sorry. I'm thinking of a different WrestleMania. I'm thinking of a different WrestleMania. Oh, Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 36. I wanted Shayna to win. Well, Becky won, and then a month and a half later, she had to relinquish her title. She had to relinquish her title and put it up on the line in the Money in the Bank match. Well, they could have put her over. Like the reason why is because Vince McMahon said, "Oh, with an MMA background, that's not gonna do stuff. That's not gonna be a good star." But that's kind of hypocritical because he made stars out of Matt Riddle and Brock Lesnar and now Bobby Lashley actually. And there's a lot of people that have MMA backgrounds that go into WWE. Ken Shamrock, Brock Lesnar. Actually, Lola Vice was a former MMA. Shayna Baszler is MMA. It doesn't matter. I mean, Ronda Rousey was MMA, but Ronda Rousey, people say she might be overrated, but I honestly think, I mean, a little overrated, to be honest. She has a bad reputation apparently, and now I'm gonna OMG, it's back. Nick Knight, it is back. It's been a while for even though I've seen the comment now, and I'm just kind of talking about NXT Battleground. And if you're watching, make sure tune in because Rad Dad Radley Belmont is going to be coming up in a matter of about an hour or so. So stay tuned. don't touch that dial because, or don't swipe away from this. They're, the juice, it'll be a good payoff in the end. So I'll just tell you this, that back to what I was saying about Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler, I feel like she would have gotten a singles title. They had her at a long reign in NXT Women's Champion, but they didn't really capitalize on the fact that she was actually pretty skilled, and honestly think that she is a great superstar, and she is pretty well versed in her profession. She's underrated, I'll say. Even though she may's in her 40s now, age doesn't matter at this point. LA Knight proved it. CM Punk proved it. John Cena proved it. AJ Styles proved it. It really doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter about the age anymore. It matters about the work ethic. It matters about the sacrifice that somebody has to go through. So, yeah, there's not a lot of stuff to have to look forward to. Without putting the work ethic, without putting the sacrifice in, and the type of willpower that someone has. I think that anybody is with the right amount of work ethic and the right amount of mic work, the right amount of in-ring experience, I think that anybody can be a star and get over with the crowd. So Shayna Baszler is underrated, to be honest. But she's just being put into like mid-card roles or up or lower card roles. So I'll just say that. Albeit a good match. Obafemi, Wesley, and Joe Coffey, the NXT Women's NXT North American Championship. Sorry, I was getting sidetracked with the WrestleMania 36. So I think that match, that was the highlight of the night because of Obafemi. Oba, man, what a superstar. He can just be in his role. It's like, I kind of see Black Panther. I see Black Panther vibe, and I'm not meaning to be stereotypical, but just like being ruthless, like taking no prisoners, and like a savagery. That's what I mean. I'm not trying to be stereotypical, but a Nigerian-born superstar that is the current NXT North American champion that knocked off two of the best actually. He beat himself. Two of the best NXT superstars of the day. Wesley, really athletic, really versed, really flippy doo not flippy doo really agile in the ring. He kind of reminds me of Ricochet, which I'll get to in a moment. So I honestly think that Obafemi possibly will jump to the main roster, but not now, because there's a lot of superstars on the main roster right now that are not being used, which I do not blame them, because you can't book every single superstar and put them in the storyline. It's impossible. There's 3 hours of Monday Night Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, and 2 hours of NXT. How can you put them on the role in the main role, or like an upper card role or a mid card role, and if you're featured in television? It's impossible. They gotta come up with the storyline. It's the production team, the agents, the producers, it's the writers. It's all of the behind the scenes stuff that a there should be at least, maybe. I think not everybody should appear on television like every week or like every month, but at least once every year, because at least they're getting at least they're getting spotlight put on them, because there are a lot of superstars on the NXT roster, like Valentina Feroz, Lexis King, and even people that haven't debuted yet that possibly will, like Carly Bright, and even Olympic gold medalist Tamira Mensah-Stock. She may have, we don't know. She didn't make her in-ring debut yet on television, but she had apparently some dark matches. There's no saying that people liked her. I think I think because of like an Olympic background will give you an advantage in this field. That's my opinion anyway. Like like how Mark Henry got into it, like build bodybuilding, Kurt Angle winning a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. All those people, all those legends were Olympic gold medalists or MMA superstars or bodybuilders or whatever profession could be have a good advantage. Just depending what skill set that the profession has that correlates to the ring. I think everybody deserves a time of spotlight, no matter the background, no matter the type of wrestler you are, no matter what type of character you are. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but let's just get back on track. The NXT Battleground, Las Vegas. So, Roxanne Perez and Jordan Grace. That was like the main talking point, or at least one of. I surprisingly, oh, Obafemi I predicted to win, and Obafemi retained his championship. So Roxanne Perez, Jordan Grace for the NXT Women's Championship. Jordan Grace I actually wanted to win, but surprisingly, understandably, Roxanne Perez won and retained her championship due to Tatum Paxley and Ash by Elegance / Dana Brooke. I understand why Ash by Elegance came back because the alter ego Dana Brooke actually was on NXT before she was fired, or she was let go, or before her contract rescinded, before her contract expired. So, yeah, honestly think that WWE will use them in the proper manner, to be honest. But but I understand why Roxanne Perez won, because they're trying to build up Roxanne Perez to the point that she is like the egomaniac of NXT. Possibly not all ego, hint hint, but you know what I mean. Trying to build her up. That's why they did that. The main event. Whoop that trick. Williams versus all ego. Ethan Page. This was major. Ethan Page's first match is a title match against the NXT champion. Like, you would think that there would be a lot more build up. But, you know, there's not a lot to build up on TV. But I think the match was great, to be honest. Ethan Page showed us a showcase of stuff what he's capable of. Ethan Page, honestly, has a good theme song. I don't critique the music because that's kind of I watch wrestling for the it's pro wrestling. Let us enjoy it. I'm not really a fan of like stuff like tribalisms. Even though I kind of joke around like, oh, Tony Khan is just kind of like with the millions of dollars buying, just borrowing from his father's bank account to get more ex WWE superstars to sign to AEW. I'm not trying to antagonize Tony Khan. I'm trying to, be a like a like be like that's me. That's me, not a persona. Not like K Clark KO, my DCW alter ego. So I think that I don't think people hate on Def Rebel. People hate on people hated on Maxine when she did bad. When she was booed out of the booed out of a live event. Honestly think I just watch wrestling for the wrestling. Sure I point out the flaws, but just to get better. They're not acrobats. They're not the Olympic. They're not. It's not the Olympics. Don't take it so seriously. Because if you take stuff seriously, like that's gonna make it have people misunderstood. Because wrestling evolved from the circus, from strongmen trying to wrestle each other to the ground to get like $500 at the end of the day. But like Martin Farmer Burns, Ed the Strangler Lewis, George Hackenschmidt, those were pioneers. Oh, Lou Thesz, all those people paved the way for what wrestling is today. And to the scripted part. That's all that stuff. It's scripted. They pay the people the money, the music makers, the musicians, the bands, and they make a theme song. I just like the theme song. It's pro wrestling. So Ethan Page, first NXT championship, first NXT title match, or first match in WWE, which is major because there has been a couple of instances where this first match they faced the champion, like Santino Marella, for example, and Paige, now known as Saraya. But this is a little different because Ethan Page had his first match and his title match on the pay-per-view / PLE, whatever you prefer to call it. I think that it was great actually to bring in Ethan All Ego Page to have his match for Trick Williams' NXT championship. And he thinks he has the confidence. He is a veteran of the ring. fellow Canadian, dipping his toes in the water in WWE. I welcome it. The crossover. They're signing new superstars, but they're not doing it like sporadic. They're not doing it really, really sparse and vast like AEW is doing. Or at least I do critique AEW, but AEW has a lot of superstars that I like Ricky Starks, like MJF, obviously, like Bryan Danielson, Chris Jericho, even like lower card guys like Action Andretti and Darby Allin and Danhausen. I haven't even seen Danhausen. But that does not mean that was a shame. That was a stupid decision to sign them. No. People have refused their frustrations, but I'm not saying Tony Khan is a bad guy. It's just I'm critiquing his mannerisms, his business practices. I'm not accusing him. I'm just questioning and critiquing, not like bashing him. But I'm just joking. Just like TNA has superstars, ROH, MLW, CZW, GCW, DL. I'm trying to think. Dead Block Pro Wrestling, DPW. All those wrestling promotions have their own talent. Some may are indie promotions, some are major promotions. Doesn't matter. They can sign their contracts just exclusively for their brand. So I don't think Tony Khan is a bad guy. I think he's a genuine guy. He's basically all of us. So that's what I think. But back to the match. Ethan Page, Trick Williams, NXT title. I betted on Trick Williams to win because Ethan Page needs to pump the brakes. I don't think they should. Like they need to test the waters first. They can't just throw him a title. It's like can't just let him off the leash. Just chain him up. Just have him a match against the champ. Have a stellar match. And have a grand old time because Ethan Page, I feel like he's went all out for this. He brought the all ego. He brought everything to the table. I don't think it was bad. I think it was great. I think it was the best match. I wouldn't say of his career, but a best match. That's the first time. I think a couple times I've seen Ethan Page wrestle, but I don't remember. But this is the first time Ethan Page appeared to me on a WWE product, and I think that AEW needs to take note of what WWE is doing. They can learn from them, learn from their mistakes, from all the mistakes. And honestly, is AEW gonna go tanking? No, I don't think so. I may joke about it, but no, it's not going to tank. I think that Tony Khan should, keep on his dream. It's been 5 years of Dynamite, of AEW, so it's not going to go to waste. I think it should continue. I think it's a great day to be the champion, a great day to be a promoter. Even though Tony Khan may be questionable, but I kind of accept him. I have different opinions, but he has different opinions, you know? Yeah, there's a lot of superstars that think otherwise. But Ethan Page had a great match against Trick Williams. Trick won, and I expected somebody to show up, but apparently not. But I think he will show up. But Cody Rhodes is going to appear on NXT tonight. I'm going to see where that goes, and I'll see what happens because Cody Rhodes might have a match against Ethan. He might want to have a match against anybody. But one thing's for certain, that All Ego, Ethan Page, is welcomed home into WWE. Will there be an AEWWE crossover? Never say never. Never say never. Well, talked about NXT Battleground. I'm gonna go to a break. I'm gonna turn on some lo-fi music so you can hear it. I'm gonna be on. apparently, okay, apparently, the music was even playing. Apparently, it was just on mute all the entire time. Huh? That was an epic fail. I do apologize. This is kind of the second time using StreamYard, so bear with me here. So I honestly think that NXT Battleground was a great PLE, even for NXT. Possibly there will be more NXT NA stuff in the future. So I honestly think that Triple H knows what he's doing. Triple H, Nick Khan. I was just talking about Tony Khan earlier, so Nick Khan, no relation to Tony, and forgot his other name. I think those were the main two now. Nick Khan and honestly, Nick Khan and Tony Triple H. I'm messing up my speech now. So Triple H, you're doing a great job in blending kayfabe kayfabe and reality together, and collaborating with other companies like GCW, NJ Pro Wrestling Noah, and Marigold. That is a that is a that is a big mindset to set for people, for other promotions to do. I honestly think that people are going to follow in your footsteps because that is inspirational to working with other companies. WWE used to work with NJPW stars. Was it CMLL? With when Vince McMahon just used them for extras in the Royal Rumble. But WWE never really collaborated in a modern fashion in a long time. So TNA, GCW, Marigold, Pro Wrestling Noah, I cannot believe how it comes this far that Noah, that WWE has evolved in many ways. Because there's no other way to put this era. As Cody Rhodes said, we're in the Renaissance era. Or we are in a Renaissance era. He trademarked Renaissance era. I'm pretty sure what started this Renaissance era? Well, I would think that Cody Rhodes coming back might have been started of that Renaissance era, but I think personally when CM Punk came back in Chicago in Survivor Series, that was the start. But possibly a couple more people would think, well, Vince McMahon has been gone in 2024. That's basically the end of Renaissance era, and Triple H is taking full leadership. I honestly think I accept any of those, but I think one thing is in common with this new age of WWE. Cody Rhodes is the world champion again. Not again. He's the world champion and he's on top and he's the innovator. He's the John Cena of this era. And now he's going to take us possibly 5 years, 10 years in the future and take us through graceful, I can't even think, graceful and great things for the future for WWE. dream matches, entertaining segments, and even groundbreaking kayfabe melting pay-per-views, that those storylines like Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. That was work shoot, because Drew McIntyre mentioned that, he was self-destruct because of the alleged stuff in AEW. And not my name, though. They don't mention competition. They'll just say the other guys or the other promotions, because that's not good business. If they mention their competitors, I mean, they can, but in the sense of mentioning them, they have to have some type of maybe protocol in mentioning them, because this makes sure that you look superior over your competitors. That's what a company is supposed to be about. Why are we giving you money instead of giving other companies money of the same occupation, the same type of venue, and same type of virtue? Because we chose, because we like it, because we loathe it, we love it. Like Ford and Tesla, it's a company. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. And Triple H, I feel like it's going to make it much more richer. But moving on to other news, like with Ricochet being taken off television because he's wanting to venture other venues outside of WWE, because Will Ospreay said he was just basically being mishandled in WWE. He pointed that out to him, pointed that out to the world, and Rick thought, I remember facing Will Ospreay in the Indies before signing with WWE. How about I venture outside elsewhere? Because I have many years left. I can do more 5-star matches, and I can face Will Ospreay. That's what I think, but that may not be the exact truth. But honestly, I think that WWE will have a new era beyond the Renaissance era, but I honestly think that's kind of jumping into the future without giving it much thought. Because honestly, I think WWE, in the state that it's in, is more profitable than it ever was. Like WrestleMania this year was one of the most profitable WrestleManias of all time. One of the best WrestleManias. And one of the capping off Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. Speaking of the Tribal Chief, we'll talk about a little later. But Ricochet, hopefully he wrestles some opponents that he has never faced. I think that's that's one of the factors of wrestling in AEW. You get to face other opponents that you never faced before. Well, WWE does that, but I think AEW is kind of more like just putting stuff together. I don't think they have a production team, and I don't think they have and they didn't disclose that there was like a big production. I may be wrong, but honestly think that WWE is in the right direction, and they need to keep it that way, because there is no other time than now, than any other, because there is a lot of more opportunities that WWE can capitalize on because Triple H has an open mindset than Vince McMahon. But I feel like I'm just going off on a tangent again because I feel like I see to do that. But back to the subject topic. Ricochet, good luck in your future endeavors. I hope you do the best. If somehow he's watching this. Thank you. You were one of my favorite superstars in recent memory. At least you had one more championship before you leave the door, leave the building. We'll miss you. Anyway, apparently Chad Gable is actually going to be signed. Apparently it says he's likely to sign back to the WWE because it is likely that they have a lot of stuff planned with Chad Gable. Gable, I am one of my current favorites. Underrated, to be honest. Chad Gable is a man that he never got a singles title. I think he might at some point. I don't know a Clash of the Castle though, but we'll see. We'll see what WWE decides to do with Chad Gable and his push. But there's also is apparently said that Sexy Red got involved in a brawl at a airport right prior to NXT Battleground, which I saw the footage and she was just carrying a little pole, kind of getting involved in there. And see, I'm gonna look at the footage back. I don't think I can. See, Sexy Red, I do respect. She's a rapper. You know, she can offer anything to the WWE for a service, you know? That's why she is that's why she is a draw. That's why she is a rapper right now. She has her own Wikipedia page. She is known. So apparently she's been arrested for disorderly conduct after following the fact. And honestly, Sexy Red, I barely know her as a rapper, and the constant the twerking that she did on NXT and NXT Battleground, I see what they were trying to do with it because they were trying to bend the rules of PG. They were trying to, which is certainly going to end because PG is kind of like past the past now. We're gonna be living in a new era. Now we're going back to possibly rated R, and I love it. That's bringing back the attitude era or ruthless aggression era aspect into the modern product of WWE. But Sexy Red was a delight, actually. I honestly don't think that feel like she gets hate or she doesn't get hate. I feel like they will be mixed. Like including celebrities is not a bad thing. I welcome it. Like with Colin Jost and Michael Che, I barely knew them, but at least it was a little bit, there was a comedic factor for including them at WrestleMania 34, 35 in that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. That was hilarious. that they were trying to eliminate Braun Strowman. That was hilarious. It's not a bad thing. You know, like trying to pull up their track record and stuff. Apparently doesn't affect him. Like I thought Jey Uso, when he got arrested, I thought he was not going to win the championships. But nope. The Usos won the championships and became the longest reigning champions in modern history. And I guess that's why they proved the doubters wrong. That honestly, the Usos are where they should be. And they're not overrated. They're not underrated. They're just right. In the middle, on the smack dab in the middle. There's a lot of stuff that can be talked about when it comes to superstars. There is a lot of superstars that don't see the light of day and don't get a lot of attention. That's why I was bringing up NXT. NXT is a platform for other superstars to build their own persona and build traction behind their name. Just why Lyra Valkyria made her debut, and she went to Saudi Arabia in the finals against Nia Jax. Props to her. Props. I'm holding the phone here. This is not up to a stand. I'm just holding it up. So I honestly think that anybody can be a star with the proper platform, with the proper mic skills, with the proper skill set. Anybody can be a star. And I mean it. There's a lot of scrutiny behind a lot of names. There are a lot of people that get under fire because they got arrested. Like their legacy was tainted. Their livelihoods are ruined. Oh, their childhood's a lie. Like that was in the past. I mean, I understand why the frustration because like how Sonny got convicted of murder and was found guilty of murdering somebody with a car. I barely knew about Sonny. To put it more bluntly, I think that WWE hasn't Hulk Hogan has said the N-word in the tape, and they blacklisted him from the WWE Hall of Fame for 3 years, and they welcome him back with open arms. It's their issue. Does it affect the product? Probably. Most likely. What's your perception? It can change. But there is one thing for sure that we have privilege of being is ourselves. And presenting ourselves, our character, our persona. That we have our personas and our real character, real persona. Our creativity. That's why WWE is more open. But honestly, why? I get it. Jimmy Snuka was convicted of murder, of trying to commit murdering murdering his girlfriend back in the 90s. And Vince McMahon covered him, trying to bribe the police to not send him to court, not be convicted. I don't really pay attention to that. I look at just the wrestling. I'm not look at the controversial stuff that they did. I mean, I take notice of it, but I don't take like I get a I portray a reaction from that, but I don't have any type of what's it reprimand or lost disrespect for him, which it feels disrespect. Yeah, you like Jimmy Snuka. If he was found guilty, I would basically put my own perception, but the wrestler doesn't change. Like how Chris Benoit, all this shenanigans that where he killed his wife and kid and he killed himself. I look at the wrestling and I understand and I look into it. Possibly some may speculate that CTE was to blame for Benoit's double murder suicide. That may be controversial to some people. WWE will not mention it, but that's history. You can't change that. So, as the past is the past. It's because there are a lot of people in this world that have different problems. There are a lot of people that have what's the word am I thinking of? Respect, have different ways of life. And we have to accept that. Even though we don't like it, we accept it. Like in life, not everything is not has not to be taken for granted. We don't take it for granted, so we just accept everything. Not accept everything, I feel like it sounds egotistical. But accept, just capitalize on the situation and try to make something positive out of a negative situation. That's why people have evolved and conquered abuse and alcohol addiction and drug abuse and suicidal tendencies, breakups, etc. Life happens for a reason. God puts us here for a reason, and we will have to accept God's willing. So life, when it relates to wrestling, I focused on the wrestling. I don't let my perception of stuff outside the ring. I do acknowledge it, but I don't actually pay attention to it like a lot as I should and take it like, oh, controversial, blah, blah, blah. I may sound controversial in itself, but honestly, I think that there's a lot to be talking about when it comes in regards to that. There are some people that have set grudges against those people, like CM Punk with the All In incident with the stuff with Jack Perry, where it was found, where it was footage later on that Jack Perry basically was in the wrong and Punk was in the right, where Tony Khan was actually in the wrong. They gotta own up to it. If they don't own up to it, how are you gonna move on from it? Like, is it gonna affect your job? Probably. But is it gonna affect the stuff that you did at the time? No. That's history. But you need to have some type of history, some type of recognition, recognize the fact that you've impacted this business before you did that controversial deed. So just know what you're going to get yourself into. That's life advice there. So yeah, I'm gonna say in WWE there are a lot of superstars that should deserve the main event slot. LA Knight is a big one, but LA Knight, I would love to see LA Knight in the world title picture, but that's not how WWE works. WWE runs on a schedule. WWE runs on different storylines. AEW does the same thing. Impact, TNA, ROH, MLW. People may have different perspectives of what a show is, but I'll say for certain that there is a man that knows wrestling, and that is Grimm's Toy Show. Grimm's Toy Show, I've been watching for several years. For several years. So, I honestly think. Hold on a second. So, what was I saying? Oh, like GTS, I've been watching for 30 years, over 3 years now. To the build-up of Grimomania 2021, where Duhop was demolished by Vince Series. That was a moment there that you can't take away from those people that were involved. So I gotta say, for the people that are involved in the creative of Grimomania 2021, you did an excellent job. The Ace Marksman match was superb. That was possibly the highlight of the night for me, because even more than the Vince match, because that was Grimm's old house. They would have had clearance to do that. Whoever lives there is just, gonna have to live with the fact that there's gonna be walls gonna be breaking. There are gonna be walls breaking down. Break the walls down. And a lot of stuff is gonna be thrown everywhere because it's a brawl, because it's wrestling. Like how Triple H entered Randy Orton's house and crashed him through a window. Invaded his house, and LA Knight invaded AJ Styles' house. So let me talk about Grimomania from that until now. So Grimomania is a show that, even though it's a parody, it is still wrestling, and it's great wrestling. Where Duhop had that face paint over his eye and went to war with Vince Series. I loved it. And that Ace Marksman match that caused that controversy, just buzz out of everything that went into it. Like where Grimm said, "You don't deserve to put GTS on the line. You put LTW on the line," and Ace Marksman forced his hand on the contract, and LTW is still a company to this day. And there's a lot of companies that tried to get in contact with him, to work with him. Grimm is an expert in everything. there's a lot of people involved in the aspect of Mania and Grimm's toy show. It's not a phrase, it's a moniker created just by Grimm playing with his grandfather, playing with action figures. Yeah, you moron! What are you doing? I'm looking back at the old videos. I may have not been watching back then, but that's just really, really, really satisfying. You know, I am really honored to be watching Grimm's Toy Show and being maybe a GTS lifer and digesting all the storylines. And then see Grimmania 2022, where Jimmy Controversy with I guess it was like a work shoot where Jimmy Controversy was in a lot of alcoholic problems, and Grimm was trying to get into rehab. That may be a shoot, but I'm not sure. I'm thinking it's like a work shoot because they still did the match anyway. If it was a shoot, then it would have just been thrown out. Well, that's what we thought at the time before Grimmania, where Grimm fought Jimmy Controversy in a casket match where Grimm actually lost, which surprised me at the time because I thought Jimmy Controversy was like the long living gag that, you know, I just want to beat the hell out of Jimmy Controversy. I think Jimmy Controversy actually knows. He just wants to do it for the gag and he wants to put on entertainment because there is a lot of people, the old GTS fans, that want to see Grimm put Jimmy through a table. Through over 10 years, and the stuff that they're putting out now is just inspiring because I've grown up on it. During the pandemic, I brought up on it. I've grown on different series that I've grown to love, and that's one of them. Grimm's Toy Show, I got the privilege to interview people like Lawrence Spiral, Joe Dice, Grimm himself even, and Vince Series, Shamar, before he made his big return. And he's wrestling now, the current champion. The thing was the world champion. What they call it, the world championship. But, one of these superstars is going to be on in a matter of moments. But let's talk about Grimmania 2023. That was the year that DF Black and White versus DF Black and Lime. That was like a civil war. I guess playing off with the Bloodline Civil War, but I don't think that was like a term used at the time. But yeah, that's what I take off of it, looking back at it. Where Grimm and Doo-Hop faced each other in their respective teams, and then Kurt Bale did a swerve and made his own DF, the blue and red, until it was actually found out that later on Grimm had a falling out with Kurt Bale, and honestly think that he's not going to work with him because he's been really kind of after him, which I do respect. It's not going to be any more Kurt Bale, but never say never. They could patch things up, but I'm not gonna wish upon it, But honestly, think. Hi, Optimal Mayo. I see your hearts there. Nice to see you dropping in. So, I think that that match was revolutionary. Grimmania 2023, the main event. where it started at the the Regal Rumble, where Grimm was, thrown out by by Duhop, but Unsubscriber actually tossed him out. He didn't touch him. He's like, oh, I didn't touch him. But he turned on Grimm anyway, without even turning on him physically. That was a little smart booking move, to be honest. But in Grimmomania this year, when I watched, that was even better. It's just getting better and better by the years. Grimmomania, with a lot of introducing these new stars, like I was introduced to Billy Mike Swanson, Lawrence Spiral, E Money Millie, the Stepdads, the Boy Band, Flash Carter, Jungle Jim Wilder, the Dark Oracle Sage, all those newer guys that really have wanted to have the moment, in the spotlight of Grimm's Toy Show, whatever it takes. But I'll just say this. I'm going to make my predictions now. So, on GTS Clash at the White Castle, I'm going to say, I'm just going to give my personal feelings aside. So, E Money Millie versus Mike Goldstein. Well, honestly, Mike Goldstein was that controversial thing where he at Rumamania 2022, where he basically kind of took the title, but it was turned into a work shoot. It was not actually a shoot, or it could have been, and then worked it into a storyline. That's what Grimm says. Like, I blend reality with kayfabe, so you don't know what's kayfabe because like the stuff with Lisi. I think Lisi, this is all like kayfabe, work shoot kayfabe, but not like work kayfabe. But the personal stuff with Tina and Grimm, that may be real. I can give that. But honestly, sometimes it's hard to tell if it's real and if it's kayfabe. Sometimes you can, like Grimm said, he said he would blend reality and kayfabe for the show. So I can say that. So for my prediction between E Money Millie, the United States champion, versus Mike Goldstein, the former world GTS champion, that's a tough one because Mike Goldstein is pretty agile, pretty athletic. But if I had to be honest, if I had to pick one, E Money Millie had to go there. Had to be in the spotlight. I think he's going to retain the championship at Clash of the White Castle. Sorry, Goldstein. I think E Money Millie's going to win. Next match, Mikey Anarchy. The death match. It's like a death match wrestler. He's like violence. Oh, that could I want that to happen. That could be a green match in itself. Possibly it could happen in the future. Who knows? Grimm might be watching this later on, so he might take note. But Mikey Anarchy, the deathmatch wrestler, versus Venom wife Gabe Sayers. Gabe Sayers had a match against Grimm and basically kind of went too. People say he went too far into bringing up his dead mom, but it's hard to tell. sometimes if it's real or it's fake. But to me, that could be blending, like, that could be real. But I don't know if they can send real stuff that happened in real life into storyline. But I don't know if it's gonna happen. But I'll say this for certain, that Mikey Anarchy is gonna retain the hardcore championship because Mikey Anarchy is unhinged. He's a madman. He possesses a pariah inside of him and takes it to the next level. It's like a live piranha. It's like a live piranha, to be honest. There is a lot of stuff to unpack. But Mikey Anarchy, I'm gonna pick him. And the main talking point, Grimomania worthy match. People may say it's Roman and Cody. People say it may be like Triple H and Daniel Bryan. Grim versus Rad Dad Radley Belmont. I think for certain Grimomania worthy match. Ugh. It's hard to say. I don't know. It's hard to say because they're both they're both like veterans. The stepdads have been around the indie scene in the Northeast. So it's hard to say. But I don't think I need to make my decision here. Radley can't lose. Huh. I feel you, Optimal Neo. You know, maybe he might not lose. So you know what? Let's ask the man himself. Introducing the longest reigning former GTS Intercontinental Champion, former GTS United States Champion, former Workhouse double crown, former one half of the StepDads, and the man who will not let you mess with the thermostat, Rad Dad, Radley Belmont.
There we go. Yeah. How are we doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you, Rad Dad?
I'm fantastic. I have to clarify right up front that even though I am a single star in GTS, the stepdads are still alive and well. No former stepdads. We're still out there kicking butt.
I don't think I said former stepdad. I said former Intercontinental. That's what
okay. All right. That's right.
Like I blended that because you were the Workhorse double crown.
Yes. So 3 times the Intercontinental Champion, 1 time the US Champion, and the only man in GTS history to defend the Intercontinental and US title simultaneously. Nobody else in the history of GTS has done that. I'm very honored and blessed to be the one to do that as the Workhorse Double Crown Champion.
Yeah, and you're, not to mention, you're the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. That's a feat in itself. One of the possibly the longest reigns in GTS history.
It was not easy. Absolutely. No, not only the longest reign for one reign, but the longest combined reigns as well. I beat Duop at both those records. I was able to beat both of them eventually. And I like the sound of that. Radley can't lose. I haven't been losing much since I come to GTS. I think I've been the champion most of the time. We're gonna keep that going.
Yeah, honestly, that you have a tough battle at Clash of the White Castle against Grim. Even though he's like in a lot of stuff with Lacey and stuff that I know we're not going to get into. But
a lot of distraction.
You know the full focus is that GTS Legendary YouTube Championship, where you could possibly quote finish that story. I had to because that's like overused That was like overused at WrestleMania this year. That's like you'll finish the story, or it's like I feel like it will just be like riots. People would
Oh yeah.
if Cody was not going to win. But in this scenario, I feel like in this situation, it could be that worthy of that. But
I remember maybe 10 years ago, everything was Bullet Club and this club and that club and club this
yeah,
and Club Villa and all this stuff. Now it's
yeah,
stories. Everyone's trying to finish their story. That's why when Grimm said that to me, he said, "You're the Cody Rhodes" on GTS a couple weeks ago. I said, well, if I'm the stepdad, then I'm going to finish the bedtime story by bringing the belt home to the kids and reading and reading the book of Radley Belmont, how their dad finally did it and reached the mountaintop. That's the bedtime story.
yeah. A couple like about almost 2 years ago, you debuted on GTS Wrestling. I think late
Yes.
2022 when you and Papa Bear Wade Kruger stepped in that ring in a tag match. How did it feel, the type of atmosphere that GTS was presenting?
That's a great question. So, obviously, as you know, I've had a history as an independent wrestler for, geez, I don't know, what, 9 years now, something like that. I lost track. 2016, January 10th, 2016 is when I became a pro wrestler. So I've traveled all over the Northeast, New England. I've gone from Boston to Philly and back. But before that, I was a simple backyard wrestler. And not only did I just wrestle in backyards, I wrestled in backyards across the country. I wrestled in Chicago. I wrestled in Las Vegas. I wrestled in Salt Lake City. Allentown, Pennsylvania to Cooperstown, New York. So all these random wild venues that now with COVID and things like that, we've seen outdoor venues. We've seen venues with maybe 5 fans there. It doesn't mean the show sucks. It just means, we have COVID restrictions, or maybe it's a hard to get to place. There's a million reasons. There's a million reasons. Bad weather, tons of stuff. So when I went to GTS, it reminded me of those events where I was around really people that would become big names later. But at the time, we were all just guys having fun, showing the passion that we had for wrestling. And we were kind of too young to just get into training, or some of us were training, that kind of thing. Seeing GTS in that atmosphere, and I feel like that is something that is misinterpreted about GTS, is that it's not in a backyard because it's a bunch of like idiots doing idiotic things, or it's unsafe, or whatever you want to say. It's a style. It's an atmosphere. They want things to be back. They want to give you that childhood vibe of when you were a kid playing in your backyard. It's Grimm's Toy Show. Here's the secret. I'm gonna let you in a little secret. It's Grimm's Toy Show. The wrestlers are like his toys. He's booking us as if as you would at home, saying, "Oh, I want to see Rad Dad wrestle Millie, or I want to see Vlad take on Shamar." And then you just bought the action figures together, which pretty much was Vlad versus Shamar. It was just a bunch of this, but that's what Grimm's Toy Show is all about, and that's what I appreciate about that style of wrestling. It's different from any other wrestling in the world. It sometimes we've had shows with a live audience. I'm sure you've seen footage of that. Other times the wrestlers surrounding the ring are the audience, and you think, "Oh, is that cheap?" No, it's interesting storytelling, because with every time someone hits a move, you get to see what the entire roster, one by one, is thinking and feeling and how they're reacting. You're getting so much story. It's so much more than just the 10 minutes you see from your local indie company. You see every single wrestler for the entire show, and it's clipped because it's a vlog, but you get to see the raw emotions from these wrestlers in real time. That's so unique, and that's the kind of stuff I love about GTS. It's spur of the moment. It's Jerry Springer. It's Crash TV. It's Attitude Era. And that, ironically enough, it works very well for me, even though in a lot of ways it's the opposite of me. I'm all about rules. I'm about honor and traditional wrestling. But being in that atmosphere and clashing with it like I do, it's a perfect match. That's why something as wild as Grimm's Toy Show, Grimm being this crazy champion right now, trying to do whatever he can to keep the belt, I just want to wrestle. I just want to show that I am or I'm not the man. I'm not even saying I am the man. I'm saying if I get that shot, then we'll find out. And that's what I'm most curious about. And I think a lot of the Step fans, and I call them Step fans because they used to be Grimm's fans, and now I've adopted them. They're Step fans, and they agree. They want to know who is the best. That's why I'm very excited about Clash at White Castle. I'm sure we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. And here's the question. You brought briefly up the stepdads.
Mm-hmm.
You and Papa Bear, Wade Kruger have been a tag team for several years,
Oh, yeah.
and since the beginning of your career, like near the early parts of your career, what was the inspiration behind the name the Stepdads?
It's very funny you ask, because the Stepdads originally started as just the name of a fantasy football team. So before we were the men you see today, we were just some kids doing our backyard wrestling stuff. And the whole joke was that Wade Kruger had a fantasy football league. Everyone had a different name for their part of the league. And his was the Stepdads, because you ready? We beat you and you hate us. Yeah. Now you get canceled for saying stuff like that. But that was the joke 12, 13 years ago. Even to the point where when we were doing our backyard wrestling, he and his friends would call themselves the Stepdads. And I was often an opponent of the Stepdads, weirdly enough. So I got to wrestle Wade all the time. And in doing so, we became really good friends. At the time, I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada. He lived out in New Jersey, which is where I am now. And just having those matches, me traveling out there, I'm traveling there for shows, we became very good friends. And by the time I was in the pros, he started to be in the pros. I said, hey, let's make this a reality. Let's actually be the Stepdads. And I think it's been very successful. We've had a lot of great times, a lot of great matches. And even when we're on our own, like I am at GTS right now, he's his own stepdad and I'm my own. We're not clones. We're not two of the same persona, if you want to think of it that way. I am me and he's him, and we're very authentic to who we are. We just like to label ourselves stepdads because you get it. You see me, my corny jokes and the way I dress, and you hear the word stepdad and you go, I got it. I get him. I understand him. And that's why we use it.
And I understand the gag with not messing with the thermostat.
Oh yeah, believe me. I have it right back there. Nobody's touched it all day. I'm telling you. I'm making sure it's in my camera view. It's not going anywhere. I have eyes and ears everywhere in this house, so don't worry about that.
Not even Grim.
No, especially not Grim. Grim, unless Grim's gonna pay for the electric bill, all right, or maybe pay a little rent if he wants to stop by. He's not touching that thermostat.
So, the last couple of episodes of GTS, you've been nagging an injury to your ankle. How's like that rehab feeling with you?
So I don't want to get up right now, but it is wrapped up. It's obviously it's improving. I'm not gonna sit here and go, I'm gonna be invincible at Clash of White Castle, but I'm not gonna say I'm gonna be a pushover either. There's a real question mark in the match because of this ankle injury, and I am cleared to wrestle. I want everyone to know that, because last week I didn't wrestle. Obviously, people saw I was hobbling around. I didn't wrestle. This week I am cleared. I will be wrestling at Clash of the White Castle. I was very open about the fact that I believe that we need to know if one guy's better than the other on that day, right? That's what I always say. And when it came to Shamar was the better man that day. 100% Shamar was better than a 50% Radley Belmont on one leg. I can't take that away from him. That's why he's the GTS world champion. But what about today? What about tomorrow? You know, and I'm not wrestling Shamar today or tomorrow, but I am going to wrestle Grim soon. And the more I heal up, the more I ice this, as much as I do have to continue to walk on it for work around the house and things like that, it is improving. And I don't want anyone to lose hope on me, because look at Daniel Bryan. That guy was taped up like a freaking mummy when he won the championship at WrestleMania. It's just another obstacle, another in the million obstacles that Grim's had against me. And I'm sure that, I'm not entirely sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if Grim agreed to this match because of my ankle injury. But I have a little ace up my sleeve with a special guest referee. So everything's a toss-up right now, and I would love for it to just be one-on-one. We'll see what happens. But I no matter what comes, I'm not going to just blame this ankle on a loss. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go in full force.
Yeah, and we'll find out who that special guest referee is at Clash of the White Castle.
Yes, I'm sorry, Kyle. I cannot reveal the secret because you never know. Grim might be watching, or he'll have Duhop watch someone else. So he I never saw the footage. You know, he'll have someone else tell him what I'm saying here tonight. So mum's the word, but you will be surprised.
The best kept secret, quoting Buddy Matthews.
Exactly.
So I was getting to my next question, but Optimal Mayo asked a question. Said, when are the stepdads coming down to work in East Texas?
So ironically enough, Papa Bear Wade Kruger has technically won a championship in Texas. He won the Wrestle Circus Sideshow Championship, which was a 24/7 title, but he wasn't in Texas when he won it. So I can't say like, oh, we've been to Texas, but weirdly enough, he's won a title in Texas. That's how pro wrestling works. I don't know, but I am always open to wrestling anywhere that will take us in. If they have a plane ticket for us, we are there. And that's why we've been able to do all these great things, wrestling in Delaware, wrestling in Chicago, wrestling all over the place. Most of those were long drives or flights. I've had to be on many a plane with the championship where I go through the metal detector and they go, why do you have a shield in your basket or whatever? And I go, no, it's my belt. And I show them. And then, of course, security wants to take photos with the belt and stuff. And I have to sit there and be like, okay, I gotta go, you know. So if Texas will have us, we'll be there. They say everything's bigger in Texas. We're going to find out one day. But until then, we're going to stick around here in New Jersey in the Northeast area. Just for now, though.
Yeah, Optimal Mayo. There's a saying, never say never.
Exactly.
And now we go back into you had the honor of facing a lot of different tag teams all in the Northeast, where you and Papa Bear have been wrestling. When you were wrestling, like you mentioned, you were a backyard wrestler before you were actually a pro wrestler.
That's right.
Who was the man that basically helped evolve you into what you are today, and how is, like, looking back at it, does it reflect on the future you at the time?
Oh, that's a very good question. So for me, I'll start with the reflecting back kind of thing, because I find myself to be a kind of a unique wrestler in the way that I wrestle. And I had a lot of training. I trained in Vegas. I trained in Pennsylvania. I had a lot of individual training from wrestlers that I met. The main one that I would say helped me the most while I was backyard wrestling was a guy named Chris Frank, who wrestled for Beyond, wrestled a lot of, even though he lived in Pennsylvania, he wrestled for a lot of Northeast places. He, as well as I, have won the Iron Man heavy metalweight title, which is a title from Japan that was touring America at the time. So he and I both got to win that title. Very cool. It literally, he won that championship, and then the match right after was like Zack Sabre Jr. versus Jonathan Gresham or something like that. So like, that's the kind of level he was on at that time. And very, very cool guy. So that guy's probably been the one that's helped me the most, because he lived right down the street from my house. We had a ring set up over there in that area, and he was just showing me moves all the time, showing me, helping me out, learning the craft. I ran into so many people that I didn't realize at the time how important they would be to wrestling or to my career. For example, I was a tag team partner of Sunny Kiss for a hot minute. There's footage of us twerking in a ring together. Like I still run into Sunny once in a while. Will Ospreay used to watch my matches. Every once in a while, he'll give a like to one of my stepdad's videos. And I'm like, oh, he's still out there, I love that. Alex Zane from Ring of Honor is somebody I still chat with once in a blue moon. And he's a huge supporter of me and the Stepdads. Like that's so cool when I see that he's literally on a tour bus in New Japan, and he could be talking to Tomohiro Ishii or some other Japanese legend next to him. No, he's on Facebook, like liking our Stepdad stuff. Like that's so mind blowing to me that we got to do that kind of stuff. And then when we transitioned into the pros, meeting Orange Cassidy and having his seal of approval and how funny we were, and wrestling the Rock and Roll Express, my favorite tag team of all time, the Rock and Roll Express. We got to wrestle them before they went on their retirement tour. And these people saw that I had this kind of different style per se. You'll see a lot of like my match with Shamar, for example. I landed directly on my head at the end of that match. I don't know if you'll see another wrestler do that. Things like that are just very unique to having to learn the way we learned in that yard and how we attack the mat, as we like to say. A lot of people fall funny. A lot of people do moves weird until they have that experience. And if you only start training when you're 18, and I'm not recommending just run out to your backyard and fly off the tree or something, but the fact that I was in a wrestling ring, able to, in a legitimate wrestling ring, taking legitimate moves at an early age allowed me to gain more experience than somebody who just started training at 22, for example, or, someone like that. And it allowed me to get those extra reps in that they would have to, kind of quickly on their own at that point. So it was good and bad because I got to do all that experience. I got to meet all those amazing people before they blew up and became big names. And then the bad is my back hurts all the time, but it probably would anyway. So it's quite all right. I don't let that kind of stuff bother me when I'm in the middle of the ring. Adrenaline rush. Adrenaline does amazing things. If you ever wonder how could that guy do that thing, how could that woman jump through and go through that thing, like adrenaline. The answer is adrenaline.
Yeah, there's a lot of adrenaline in pro wrestling matches nowadays.
I mean, just ask Cody Rhodes. He's got a ton of it in his soul or whatever he says. So there you go.
Yeah. Also going back on the reflecting back thing. When you first met Wade Kruger and formed the Stepdads, how was your relationship? Did you guys have a relationship before you came up with the Stepdads? What was the relationship between you both?
So before we became the Stepdads, we were already roommates. So we were pretty good friends at that point. We were pretty chum. I had moved out from Las Vegas to the Northeast to get closer to wrestling. There wasn't much wrestling out there. Now there is. Now if you go to Las Vegas, they have Future Superstars of Wrestling and a couple other places that are very good wrestling companies. When I lived out there, nobody cared about wrestling. They did Raw Roulette, if you remember Raw Roulette in the early 2000s. That's about it. Nobody really went to wrestling shows in Las Vegas. So I moved out here to the Northeast. Immediately, I already knew Wade. So immediately we're back at it, being buddies, but just way more often. And even though we wrestled each other more times than I can remember back in that era, we're talking 2013, 2015, 16, somewhere around there. By the time the tag team started, I was already wrestling as a single star. I already won a tag title with a different partner by that point, which fell apart very quickly. I won't get into that, but we were already roommates. That's why it was so easy. I literally just walked upstairs and said, "I got an idea. Let's just do the thing, man." And he was sitting on his chair, he's probably watching Community or something, and he was just like, "You know what? Let's give it a try. Let's give it a try." Because, he as starting out as a pro, he was just about to become a pro, he was about 2 months in as a pro, and he's like, "I love tag team wrestling, just like me. I love tag team wrestling. I'm a big tag team wrestling person." Obviously at GTS, I'm a singles guy. I probably only had like I don't know, 2 tag team matches without Wade ever at GTS, but I absolutely love tag team wrestling. And if Wade is ever able to come back to GTS, that's more of a scheduling thing than anything else. He's just not available. But if he's ever able to come back, man, what a tag team run we would have. I really believe that. And we still get to do that on other independent shows uh, across Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. We're still out there. We're still doing our thing.
Well, when you first went on to GTS and
Mm-hmm.
experienced that type of atmosphere, how was the locker room like when you were first there compared to what it was now?
Boy, that is
You
saying
don't
a
have
lot
to
because
you don't have to say too much. You could say what you
oh,
want. It doesn't have
I
to be.
don't worry about that. There's no secrets. Everything's an open book with me. But
Yeah.
I also really don't have anything bad to say. It's just it's different because when you're in a locker room with wrestlers, you're in a locker room with larger than life personalities. And they don't just turn off whatever you see on screen like the second they walk through the curtain. That's a part of them. So when you're in that locker room, any locker room in pro wrestling, you're gonna get these larger than life people. They want to talk to you. They want to be big and bombastic and tell you the biggest stories in the world. And that's the kind of atmosphere GTS has. That being said, it's an incredibly positive atmosphere. Now, are there hiccups? Sure. I'm sure you've noticed some people come and go, right? Everyone goes, oh, I want to see this guy back. I want to see that guy back. And sometimes it's just they're not available or they're injured or they moved. But once in a while, it's also just they're kind of tired of being in that locker room. So you see people come and go all the time. I feel like the only constant since 2002 when I started was maybe, I don't want to say Grim and Doo-Hop, they're always there. Um, Jungle Jim, but he's also gone now. So it's like, who else is there that was there when I was around that hasn't just come back? Eris Spiral, for example, has come back a few times and left a few times. But I kind of feel like I'm like the last guy. I'm the backbone right now. Before I was there, I feel like Jimmy Controversy was constantly around. Like he was always the guy that was around. So
Yeah.
I guess I
He's
kind of
like
took
a
his spot
living.
for a little while.
He's
But
like a
he's back
living
too.
gag in GTS
Yeah,
fans with Jimmy Controversy. He's
there you
like
go.
close to
Yeah.
the table.
But yeah, so like it's a lot of fun being in those kind of locker rooms. There's no specific story you could tell. Like, oh yeah, there's this one time. I think it's just a great camaraderie. It's a lot of people that really want to do something fun, and like no matter who you think of in wrestling, you go that guy's a jerk, or that guy he's got a big ego. I guarantee you, when they're in the moment and they're about to wrestle, they're happy and everyone's happy. Everyone that walks through the curtain is in a great mood when they walk out there, no matter what you think about them backstage. And that's something I really appreciate about GTS is that everyone's there to have a good time, and it doesn't matter what the arguments are or whatever. Especially not to me. I don't care. I'm there to have a good time, and I hope that shows off in my matches and in my personality. Most of the time, if you ever see somebody walk in and you're like, whatever happened to that guy? And it was like a one-off appearance, chances are they just probably were like a jerk. And then they were gone. Like, that's about it.
Yeah. Like with the locker room and how positive it is. Let's talk about something like more on the broader spectrum. The pro wrestling industry. I'll say, see, in my opinion, it's like more vast than ever before.
Oh, yeah.
AEW and WWE. WWE is in a new renaissance era. And I feel like people that came back to the company like Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Sean Spears, all those people have just helped it make it better. And people, well, there's always in WWE going to AEW and other places like Mercedes Moné and possibly Ricochet now because Ricochet is possibly is written off television. So what do you think the pro wrestling industry how it is right now compared to when you first started, either taking bumps in the backyard scene or the pro wrestling?
So if you had asked me, even in 2015, after I'd already had training and things like that, like, oh, do you see yourself being a pro wrestler, wrestling every week or whatever? I would have said absolutely not. I would say absolutely not. No freaking way am I going to deal with the stress and the drama and the vets being jerks and all that kind of stuff. That's why I got professional training and then became a backyard wrestler, because I didn't want to be a part of the drama that was at that time independent wrestling. And we're talking like 2009. I know it was bad before that too for some people. A lot of veterans that I talk to now that grew up in like the early 2000s in the industry, they're like, oh, you're so lucky, kid. And I get that. I get that. You can tell that more people want to help each other. More people want to work together. Even companies want to work together. They're not trying to screw each other over all the time.
Yeah.
I work with a lot of people who are quote unquote rookies. I don't know how long they've been wrestling, but they're considered rookies. And I tell them all the time that you are in the absolute best era for professional wrestling as a professional wrestler. Because you look at one of my favorite eras is territory era. If you were a territory wrestler, you had to move every like 6 months and go to a different part of the country. And there was not a lot of wrestlers out there either. So you were kind of out of luck if you were trying to get in the business. You had to either get beat up by somebody until you got hired or whatever. You knew somebody. It was very hard to become a wrestler back then. And then in the 90s, people were very schemy. It was all money based. Everything was money based back then. Now, money's definitely a factor, but it's also about exposure. It's about quality. A lot of wrestlers joke about hot dog and a handshake. You ever heard that saying? Oh, yeah, hot dog and a handshake, right? That a lot of people joke about that because that was true in the 90s. Like, oh, you have this match, they give you hot dog, they send you on your way. Now it's kind of a joke because everyone does it for passion. And I'm talking about on the independent level. Like, everyone's doing it to get to the next level. Hot dog and handshake is a joke of like, well, you got some food today. But really the exposure, the footage, the connections you make with these people that you find out later that, oh, they're moving up in the world, in the industry, and then they might bring you along with them. That's the kind of stuff that you build for yourself on the independents. I love that kind of stuff, man. I love wrestling all the time. I love wrestling constantly. I'm wrestling 2 or 3 shows a week usually. With this ankle, it's not so great doing that, but usually I'm wrestling 2 to 3 times a week. And then it's not just for GTS, but GTS is obviously my home right now. And being the champion and representing it is going to be awesome. I'll tell you that. I'll take that belt anywhere. I have no problem defending the GTS YouTube legendary YouTube. I don't want to get that wrong if I'm the champion. Legendary YouTube champion. I'll defend it all over the place. So, and I see it as equal to every other independent promotion out there. But a lot of fans forget, like, yes, we have WWE and we have AEW. I absolutely love that. I love those companies. I'm very happy for the people that work there. Guys like Ricochet, if they feel like they're going to make more money and make more of an impact on their careers going somewhere else, I absolutely am all up for that, because sure, Ricochet will make good money in WWE, but if he goes to AEW and he has his own renaissance per se, that could be the thing that gets him that extra line every time he goes to a convention during his retirement. People care about that kind of stuff 20 years down the line, where if he's just some guy that was kind of there, and I'm not saying that's my opinion, but that's some fan's opinion, it's just, if he's just another Virgil or something to people and they don't go and get his autograph, that stinks. But if he has the respect of the fans and the appreciation for his work and his quality of work over a long period of time, they're going to keep coming to him even after his body can no longer do the amazing stuff it does. They're gonna go to these conventions and get 8x10s. They're gonna put them in the video games as like a legend somewhere and stuff like that. That's more money and that's more quality of your work. If that makes sense. Then don't forget there's I'll throw them out. There's MLW. People gotta remember MLW. There's Wrestling Open. If you've never seen Wrestling Open, that's the place where like guys like MJF really made a name for themselves. Limitless Wrestling. MJF was the champion there when he got hired by AEW. There's a lot of great high-end independent promotions. Northeast Wrestling. If you ever seen that, Jerry Lawler is a regular at Northeast Wrestling. You never know. These random promotions will have this huge name that's just there every month.
Yeah.
I work for a promotion in Philadelphia that just has the Patriot on like every show or every other show. When you're like, why is WWE superstar the Patriot here? And it's like, oh, he lives down the street. You know, but if you want to see the Patriot for some reason, and some people do for sure, you go to this tiny little indie promotion down the street. And I love that about pro wrestling is that you'll find that it's a big world, but it's also a small world at the same time.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And that's why I hope, I always say people got to get over the tribalism because the wrestling world is so big. It's so expansive. You get to see all this amazing stuff and you can't possibly watch all of it.
Yeah.
But it's also very small. We all know who Cody Rhodes is. We all know who MJF is. You know, we all know what a brain buster is. Like, let's enjoy it, guys. Let's enjoy the times.
Yeah, we just watch it for the wrestling. We don't watch because of the controversial stuff that happens either behind the scenes or out of the wrestling industry. We watch for the wrestling.
Exactly. And that's a big part of what I do at GTS is I'm the wrestler on GTS. I'm the wrestling guy. So if you like wrestling, that's why I'm here. But if you like character and stuff, you still got Grimm, you still got all these other things going on. And that's the variety that makes wrestling. Oh, I guess we lost Kyle. Oh no.
Don't worry, Rad Dad. I was just plugging my phone, and my phone was.
All right, I thought this became a one-man show. I was going to host and ask myself questions.
Yeah,
I was ready.
Oh no, it's you're the one of the StepDad.
I was going to ask myself how my transmission was doing, and then talk about my car.
Oh no, it's not the internet. It's all good. It's just I needed to put my phone up to the charger, you know what I mean?
No worries. I mean, I got my phone right here. I know the feeling.
Yeah.
I know the feeling, believe me. But no, so yeah, I always say it out there. If you think I'm a terrible wrestler, you think I'm the best wrestler, like enjoy it. Enjoy the wrestling. Yeah. That's what matters. Enjoy everyone's wrestling. I don't care. I don't care if I don't like Nia Jax. Okay, then don't watch Nia Jax, but enjoy the show. Enjoy the show. People think that wrestling is. See, here's the thing, Kyle.
Yeah.
Wrestling is a circus. Wrestling came from the circus back in the 1800s, 1850s. I've been researching a lot about 1800s pro wrestling, so it's like in my mind right now.
Wow,
but
we have a common
I am a wrestling historian. I can't even begin. Yep. I cannot begin to tell you how much of a wrestling historian I am. But wrestling is a circus. It comes from the circus. And what do you get at the circus? You get everything. You get a Ferris wheel. You get animals. You get tricks. You get the bearded lady. And if you're like, no, I don't like the bearded lady. Well, don't go see the bearded lady, dummy. You're in a circus. Watch, like, the bearded lady's not for you, man. Like, but not everything is going to be just for you. You know?
Yeah.
Very few promotions are everything is one thing. ECW was kind of like that, but even ECW had variety. Every wrestling show is a variety show because they want to get as many fans as possible. So if you don't like something, it's because it's not for you. But if you do like even one thing on every Raw or on every Dynamite or every, I don't know, MLW Fusion or whatever the heck they all have now, that's because it's for you. That's the one thing that's for you. And if you like it, then you follow that. You know?
Yeah.
I'm a big comic book guy. I love comic books. And a lot of people will go, oh, I like this Spider-Man book, but I didn't like this one. And okay, well, you can read all the Spider-Man books, or you could just follow your favorite writer or your favorite artist, and you go, "Oh, I'm going to follow this writer as he goes from
Yeah,
superhero to superhero." And that's how
yeah,
you're that's kind of how you're supposed to do it. You find the guys you like, you find the wrestlers you like, you watch the wrestlers you like. That's the real way to do it. It shouldn't be tribalism, my company versus your company. It should be, here's my favorite wrestlers. What are your favorite wrestlers? Oh, we have a few of the
yeah,
favorite. We have a few of the same. Great.
yeah.
That's how we should be thinking wrestling. And I wish more people did. I'll tell you this: all the wrestlers that are backstage, and I'm talking even the guys in WWE and AEW,
Oh, Rad Dad.
they all ready
Oh,
to screw each other over or say, "Oh, my company's better than yours." I guarantee you, nobody in AEW is going, "Screw you, my company's better than yours" to a WWE guy. Okay, that's not happening. Not outside of Twitter. I'll at least say that.
yeah, you were kind of buffering out a little bit when you were talking, but I heard what you said though.
All right.
You
I'm a
know,
little bombastic. My apologies.
yeah, that's fine. You know, the never say never catchphrase took home. Like people say, like try to doubt that phrase, but there was one single moment that happened that never say never for granted again. And
Mm-hmm.
that when I played over and over and over, that CM Punk return like really close, like is he gonna come? Is he gonna? And I just lost it, like a lot, like millions of people.
Yep.
Everybody in that building was on their feet when CM Punk came back. Like, I thought like the bridges were broken. But water under the bridge now because it's 4 years, about a decade after. So
Mm-hmm.
why have a grudge? It's
Money and
wrestling.
maturity will do wonders for every wrestler and every promotion.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
never say never moments. I'm telling you, like, because I'm a little older than you. I remember The Rock and Hogan facing off at WrestleMania 18. I watched
Yeah,
that live. I wasn't there. I don't mean live, but I watched it live. And to me,
yeah,
that was wow. This is the moment. Goldberg wrestling Brock Lesnar felt like that.
yeah.
Like
I'm
it's great. I love those kind of things. Now the TNA, what is it?
NXT
NXTNA. Like
and
that's so
NXT.
great. I
Yeah,
love it. I'm a big crossover guy. I love,
yeah.
especially in Japan, companies are constantly invading or crossing over and doing that kind of stuff. I love it. I think it's
Hmm.
fantastic. I hope we do that way more in America. And AEW does a lot of that. We've seen the NWA Women's Title. We've seen New Japan titles. We've seen there's titles that people came out with. I was like, I don't even know what this belt is, and that's me.
Yeah,
I feel like I know
the
all of
women's
them.
tag titles. Like the
Yeah,
women's tag title people forgot about. They
like
brought
there's
back
there's
a few
there's so
years
many,
ago.
and people talk about AEW having too many belts and stuff. I'm like, you guys aren't even talking about the belts that just kind of pop in and out once in a while. Like,
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah,
Hmm.
like they show like Jordan Grace shows off the TNA Knockouts Championship on the Royal Rumble. The same
Yeah.
with Mickey James when she paired in the Royal Rumble 2 years prior. Like I love the collaboration. It's like more open where they work in other promotions like TNA, GCW, Marigold, Pro Wrestling Noah. I just it's just more relaxed now.
Yeah.
It's not like oh it's all talk. Oh, I hate that company. Open jump. Like, I mean, opinions to themselves, but don't take it too far beyond your opinion. You know what I mean?
If the companies are working together, then who are you to say one is better than the other? They clearly think that they can benefit from each other. So
Yeah,
that tells you something right there.
yeah. Um, with all the stuff from talking about GTS and the upcoming match at Clash of the Castle,
Yeah. Clash of
um,
the White
when
Castle.
Clash of the White Castle, sorry. And I was trying to, I was trying to hype up for the Clash of the Castle when I
Oh.
with the Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest match in the main event. So, you know, I'm just hyping up for that match. But when the Clash of the White Castle, when you're facing Grim, before this recent stuff with like Lacey and stuff, what
Mhm.
was your what's your thoughts on with Grim? What's your thoughts on Grim when you first met him backstage, when you had your first tag match, and when you first won your titles and stuff, and all the
So
backstage?
that's a great story because it goes a little deeper than just a year or two ago. I'd never even heard of
Really?
Grim until maybe 2018 or so. And
Ah,
that was because a team I wrestled called the Beach Bums, who
ah,
main evented a Grimomania, I found out a little while later. Were like, oh, you stepdads would be great at Grimm's Toy Show, blah, blah. And I'm like, Grimm's Toy Show? What's that? Like, I don't know. Found out about it. I was asked to come a few times, but before I was asked to come, we heard that Grimm was coming to a show that we were at. We were already wrestling for a company that's no longer around. It was called Jersey Premier Championship Wrestling, which
ah.
I think is funny because it was Jersey Premier, so it was Jersey, but it wasn't always New Jersey. It was Premier, but they had rookies. Championship, and they didn't have any belts, and wrestling. So I guess that's the one that is okay. But company was weird. But we were there for a couple of their shows during their run. They had about a year and a half run, and they're gonna have Grimm on the show, and it was gonna be Grimm. I think it was Grimm versus Jay Evans versus maybe Hop, or so. It was a triple threat. And we were there that night. We meet Grimm. He gets in. He's got to do his match, so we don't really get to talk to him or anything. But we're next to the curtain. We've already had our match. We wrestled like a 30-minute match that night against a team called the Psycho Drivers. And
That was a creative name.
they were a very cool tag team. Very cool tag team. They were around for a couple of years, and that was the night they debuted in all of wrestling. That was their tag team debut. But we're by the curtain, and we're like, right when the match is over, we're going to talk to this Grimm fella and see what's up, and maybe we can work at this warehouse that he has. Like, we're just trying to, we're like, we'll throw our name in there. While we're waiting, two wrestlers go out to the ring and legitimately assault Grimm and attack him. So if you've heard of that story,
yeah.
we were 10 to 15 feet away from it as it happened, and we had no idea it was happening because we were, there's no monitor where we were. So this attack happens. They run out, and Grimm comes to the back, and he's obviously upset, and rightfully so. He thinks that someone tried to screw him over and tried to hurt him. Needless to say, we did not talk to him. He immediately left. Cops were called. I'd say about half of the audience left. So probably like 60, 70 people left like immediately because they could tell that something was very up. And they were there for Grimm. So to see Grimm get beaten up and then go on the he went on the microphone and said like that was not supposed to happen and that kind of stuff. There's footage out there, so you can verify what I'm saying. But I didn't get to meet him. And then when people asked me about it later, I was like, I knew that Grimm had like really put down this company and mentioned a few people that worked there and stuff. And I'm thinking, well, we're like the tag team there. So he probably thinks we're jerks and he doesn't want to talk to us and forget it. Like we didn't even bother contacting him. Fast forward to 2022, we end up. So I've been friends with a couple of people on the GTS roster over time. And so we get invited to interesting stuff and things like that. We end up going to this beach house that Grimm is at. And there's a vlog of it where he's at the beach house with a couple of different GTS wrestlers. And that's where I got to meet Grimm for the first time. And I mentioned the story and he was like, oh yeah, well, I don't remember you at all. So it's totally fine. I guess in retrospect, we could have asked, but then again, like, things worked out pretty well anyway.
Yeah, it was the things were flying all over the place when that happened.
Yes.
Speak, Yeah,
and I was
too heated.
Yep, and I was watching from afar. I was watching the same YouTube videos everyone else was, just trying to figure out what happened because I still didn't know that much about GTS and who this guy was.
Both were in the same building when that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were right next to the curtain. We were the closest wrestlers to the assault, and we knew the people who did it. And we run into them later, and they were very. One of them was very apologetic. We'll put it that way. Very, very upset that he did that in retrospect, because the GTS fans are brutal. When they find you, they're gonna, send you messages, and they're gonna say what they feel, and they still do to this day. So there you go. But after doing that, I end up going to this beach house where there's Grim and Tina. Meet him there. He seems to like us. Next thing I know, we're getting mentions on GTS. And if you go back to the summer of 2022, we're not associated with GTS. I'm not associated with GTS. I only met the guy once. And next thing you know, James Gray is calling me out on camera. Grim is mentioning me on camera. And this is months, many months, like 6 months before I debuted. So there's all these like weird hints to something that we didn't know was even had happened. But he mentions StepDads a bunch over the whole summer. Next thing you know, we get the invite, we get a green light, we come in, we get to have that big match. Unfortunately, we lost our first match there. Jungle Jim with his brass knucks took me right out, and that's something that I've brought up many times on camera, that Jungle Jim likes to use those brass knucks back in the day. No, he's not even on the show anymore, so I guess I won out. Haha.
Well,
But right?
Yeah, he didn't get out of the casket yet.
I mean, for all I know, there's a second casket somewhere, and he's just laying in it. I have no idea what happened to him. I always say he needs to go back to his family and be a family man, and maybe he's doing that. Maybe he's hanging out with Innocent Emily, having a kid or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, so yeah, meeting Grim at that point, he had already become a very different person, because like he had lost weight. He had, I guess he had a drinking issue at one point that he's kind of fixed and things like that. A lot of issues in his life that I wasn't there for, so I can't really verify or vouch for. But he's as far as I can tell, he's a much happier person now. He's still kind of sleazy here and there, as you can see on the show. He still does, a little a gray area, especially in his matches. But he was always very good to me when I got there, because even though we have very different aspects of what good pro wrestling is, we've always been able to work them out. And if you might remember, last year we had the Razor Ramon Classic, a fantastic 8-man tournament that I was not only honored to be in, but honored to win. And that was after, maybe 2 months, maybe longer, of Grim and I just arguing back and forth about what direction GTS should go in. I was very big on honor, and he was very big on ruthless aggression, and that was a big. Yeah, and I understand that. I understand that people love the ruthless aggression, but we had a lot of problems when it came to that, and luckily we were able to work them out. We had that match. I was able to win my second Intercontinental Championship, and he respected that. That's all I ever asked for, That's very different from the Grim we see now, because I don't remember the last time he's mentioned ruthless aggression. Do you? Because I don't think I don't think what he does is ruthless aggression anymore. I think it's just trying to skate by as champion, because let's face it, he's getting older. He's getting older. He's got a leg injury. You remember against PETA Kid, he freaking collapsed at the live event and stuff like that. Like
40 plus minutes in a steel cage. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that Grim is worse than he used to be. It means that he's trying to adjust. He's trying to find new ways to win. And I personally think some of the ways that he's doing it, they just don't gel to me. They just don't gel to me. Now, does that mean I hate Grim? No, I don't hate Grim. Am I really mad that he messed up my ankle? Yeah. Yeah, I'm mad about that. Does that mean I'm gonna choke him out? No, that's not what I do here. I'm a pro wrestler. Yeah, I'm a pro wrestler. I'm here to win championships, make money for my family. That's what I care about. Grim, it's so weird because I feel like Grim and I want the same thing. We want GTS to be the best it can be. We want the ratings. We want the views. And my thought is just what's happening right now isn't always the best. And I'm just saying, let's try something new. Let's go back in the warehouse days. Everyone was fighting and scrapping and having these great matches. Was there mess ups? Was there screw jobs? Yeah, unfortunately there was. But I don't remember. You tell me. You're the GTS expert. Do you remember people paying each other off back then? You ever see that? You never
I
saw
mean,
that, right?
there was I think there was a couple stories like back in like
Mm-hmm.
I guess like the territory days, like maybe 80s, like there was like they were trying to like set something up. I think there was like I don't know if you've heard of XPW
Yeah,
where
I've
they
heard of it.
where they invaded ECW soil. They were having I guess they were having like some type of beef back and forth, and they basically had like a physical altercation when they were
Mm-hmm.
sat in the front row. And I guess they were trying to like instigate ECW. But that wasn't like I don't know if that you would count that as a hit,
Mm.
like paying somebody off,
That's different. I feel like that's a little different. But I do see what you're saying, and that's I call that playing dirty pool. We try to make money around here. We're trying to run a business, and they're not even trying to make themselves better. They're trying to undercut someone else. And I'm not into that. I'm into making everybody look great. That's why I want to be the champion so much because I want to make these incredible matches that people are going to talk about for a long, long time. I feel like Pita Kid was doing the same thing. And it's a shame that Pita Kid got injured. He had one of his ribs. I don't know exactly what happened to his ribs, but one of them either cracked or something bad happened to one of his ribs, and now he's out. We don't know how he's going to be when he comes back. He's definitely going to come back. I can tell you that. But is he going to be able to wrestle on that level? I don't know. Even having. Let me ask you this, Kyle. So you're a GTS fan. How do you like having those two championships, the World Championship and the Legendary YouTube Championship? Do you like having both?
Well, it's kind of like how GTS is not like not just its own show. It used to have like Into the Darkness Championship
Mm-hmm.
back
Yeah.
in 2021, but like I think I don't know if you were watching GTS at that time. I know you weren't not in like consistent contact with Grim at that time,
Mm-hmm.
but there was like different championships. The World Championship and YouTube Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah.
It was kind of like the same thing with how Roman Reigns was hogging on to those championships,
Mm-hmm.
both of them, with just reunited them into one belt later on, and
Yes.
then the quote second place championship. Let me tell you, that's I like that. It's like as an aspect, it's like deja vu. You know.
I get you. And GTS is meant to reflect wrestling itself. That's the thing that a lot of people go, oh, they're just copying WWE or they're copying AEW. GTS is a reflection of the wrestling industry as it happens in real time. That's the whole point. That's the whole idea. So if you enjoy that idea of this world championship being maybe not, I don't know, would you claim it to be equal? Would you claim the titles to be equal, or is it more of a stepping stone towards something bigger?
That's hard to say because
Right?
you could say they're like at the same level, but people would like the same with the tribalism. People would
Yep.
argue that that's more prestigious than the other, but honestly, it's a world title. It's supposed to be like equally prestige
That's my
as
belief.
the YouTube Championship.
I agree. I believe they should be equal. Unfortunately, it's not. That's just my opinion. I don't know. GTS kind of recognizes things in different levels, depending on the era. But for me, winning the legendary YouTube title is the be all end all. That is the top title to me, and I'll tell you why. This is my opinion because you took 3 championships, and you would remember
Yeah.
There's the GTS Championship, the Legendary Championship, the YouTube Wrestling Figures Heavyweight Championship. They unified them all together, and then there was a brand new title in their place.
Yeah.
Some people enjoyed that there was one unified champion. Some people didn't. They wish there was more championships, more opportunities for the other wrestlers.
Yeah.
I totally get that. But as a pro wrestler myself, I want to be the best. I want to be the top guy. And even if there are 2 world titles, like there is in WWE right now, you could kind of technically say AEW has 2 world titles with the Ring of Honor world title.
Yeah.
And there's always the 2 titles, and they should be equal. But I would say most of history, you know which one's the real title, like the top title. And for me, on a personal level, that Legendary YouTube title is the top title. And if I can take it, and I would not be against unifying it, or at least holding both against Shamar. You know, Shamar's got 2 wins on me now. If I was able to get that other title while being Legendary YouTube champion, that would actually make my Legendary YouTube title more prestigious, because it's a 4th title that's unified in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know some fans wouldn't want that, so I'm just throwing it out as an option. But
yeah, there was a thing that happened in 2022 when we have yet to make your debut. There was this thing where in 2022 where they were unifying all the titles, like the Intercontinental Championship, United States Championship, Intergender Championship, all those titles together, and that Grey Wolf was holding all of those titles. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that. Yeah. It's pretty much, I remember pretty much like every time that someone won one of the belts, they would unify, and it was kind of still one belt, but it was like, oh, the intergender's in there now, and then the US is in there now, and then eventually he slowly brought stuff back. Like, for instance, the hardcore title is back. I thought honest opinion, thought we'd never see that belt again. I mean, it was literally lit on fire. But people love the hardcore title. I should have been smarter about it, because it's bound to come back. It's all the titles that were a mainstay in 2016 always end up coming back. Same with the Intercontinental, same with the US. We just happen to have the Legendary YouTube instead of the Wrestling Figures YouTube heavyweight title. But it's the same idea. Top belt, top champion. I've never been the top heavyweight champion in a wrestling company ever. I've been an 8-time tag team champion, Iron Man heavy metalweight champion, obviously Intercontinental 3 times, tried to make that the most prestigious title I could possibly make it. United States title, I feel like I elevated that because I had both at the same time, and it was such a mainstay on the show. It was very important to me to make these titles matter, because the people that took over after me, hopefully it elevates them, makes fans care, you know. And it sucks that I lost them, yeah, but Money Millie's the champion. I hope people look at that and they go, I want to watch Money Millie. I want to see what this kid's all about. It's a spotlight. It's a spotlight that the future wrestlers of GTS need. And, you know, it's another thing that I'm very proud of what I did there, but I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I got bad, you know, like Pete, this is no bashing Pete kid, but he hurt his rib. He had to go home. I hurt my ankle. I'm still here. I will fight Grim with no arms and no legs if I have to, because as long as the bell's rung and it hasn't rung a second time, there's a chance I could win. And we've seen, we've seen some of the craziest title changes ever in all of wrestling at GTS. Anything's possible. You know, I could lose 5, 6, 7 times and win the 8th time. Like, there's always a chance. And I want to be the guy who, in his very first shot at the Legendary YouTube title, I win it. That's completing the story. That's writing the book. That's whatever way you want to put it. Oh my goodness, that Rad Dad and Rad Lad? Maybe so. Maybe
that
so.
was my co-host when I first started this back 3 years ago. The Death Trap, this guy named, my buddy named Marshall, we started 3 years ago interviewing people like Lawrence Spiral and Joe Dice. He was there. He's there to say it. I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but
hey, no, it's all good.
We both we both had to interview Grim, and it was like one of the best thing in our lives. Well, at least for him. But I gotta say, continuing this interviewing the GTS roster, if it's just the GTS roster, I'm just wrestling in general, pro wrestlers, either my local indie or GTS, this wants me to just motivate myself. That's still a wrestling fan, you know?
Absolutely. And I was
Yeah,
the same way when I was younger. I made YouTube videos and I was interviewing people in podcasts and stuff. I was in your position. I really was. And it only fueled the fire for me, man. Like just watching alone can only do so much. Eventually, you want to be involved, you want to be invested, you want to talk to people. And I was the exact same way, man. The more people you talk to, the more fun you have. That's the great thing about wrestling. You can't do it alone. Nobody can wrestle alone. Nobody can wrestle in front of zero fans. I mean, pandemic, yeah, but like somebody's watching you at all times when you're wrestling, and that's the whole idea, the interconnectivity, especially at GTS, the 7th largest YouTube wrestling channel of all time in the entire world in the history of the internet. That's incredible, man. That's wild. And to be even a challenger for the top title representing YouTube, that means the world to me, man. So I hope you'll be watching. I hope everyone that is watching now and will also watch my title match against Grim, because it's going to be crazy. And I'm walking out. You saw that new belt, right? The Winged Eagle version of that YouTube title.
yeah,
Wow. That is incredible, man.
yeah. That's nostalgia, even for old WWF fans.
Oh, same.
You know?
I'll tell you right now, that's my favorite belt design in all of wrestling. And I love the way this version of it is. And to have that, I'll have it sitting. Actually, I used to have a place where the Intercontinental and US title were on my shelf over here. You can't see on camera, but I have like an area over here. And to have that belt sitting there is going to be incredible. Kids are going to look up and enjoy it every single day. You know what I mean? That's motivation for me. To be the best I can and to give people the best matches possible and stuff. And maybe not screwy finishes. Maybe we'll screw around on the show, but forget these screwy finishes, Graham. Come on, man. Like just beat somebody fairly. That's all that's what I'm saying. People think I'm being a stickler for rules. I'm not talking about rules. GTS got no rules. I get it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about these wins and losses. Let's make them count. You know, AEW talked about wins and losses counting. We're going to make them count.
Yeah, the power rankings. Yeah. Like that's all tribalism, you know, but right all over it. But as with the stuff that's been happening a couple months since Lacey has been introduced to the GTS roster and the GTS fans, what is your honest, down to earth opinion about her management and her being the business manager? You're honest.
So when I started, the man that technically opened the door for me was Cletus back when he was the booker. So I've seen Cletus's booking, I've seen Grimm's booking, I've seen Lacey's booking, and most recently, Tina's booking is the reason I got this title shot. Would Lacey have given me the title shot? I don't know. That's not something I can answer. She didn't give me one before that, and I already held 2 championships. I was a belt hog, as they say. I don't know. I just won 2 belts, man. What do you want from me? Like, take them away if you want, if you can. But Lacey is a wild card. I think you noticed recently on the show, she's a bit of a wild card, and that makes her unpredictable. That makes the show unpredictable. And so unfortunately, I just want to have a wrestling match. And with Lacey around and with Tina around, putting the people they are aside, just the actions they do on the show, very distracting, very involved. You know, everyone likes to talk about how Grim gets involved in everyone's business. Now we got 3 people. We got Tina and Lacey also getting involved in everyone's business. It's a lot of a lot. So
yeah,
sometimes I wish. What's that?
You care about the safety of the wrestlers.
Yeah.
You care about and You were in the
Yeah.
ring and you thought that Lacey was knocked out, and then come to know that Grim came after you with a clothesline, and then
Mhm.
acts as usual duck under, and then like the incidental contact.
I've seen
You know.
so many wrestlers take power bombs or a really hard slam, and when they land, you think, "Oh, a wrestler lands on their back." They hit the back of their head as well, and that ricochet can knock you out. And that's a trained, full-time professional wrestler. Lacey is not trained full-time professional wrestler, and so for her to land the way she did, I assume the match was over. Like a UFC fight, you get knocked out, the referee stops the fight. Like we've seen that in pro wrestling the last couple of years for safety. Wardlow matches, that's the first one that comes to mind, has a lot of knockout finishes. Chris Hero used to knock people out back in the day. So this is for the safety of the wrestlers. You called the match, so I figured the match was over. I went in to check on Lacey, not because we're best friends or anything. It's because I care about the safety of these freaking
Yeah,
wrestlers, man.
yeah,
GTS is a very dangerous place if you're not careful,
yeah,
and that makes the show exciting. It makes it different from every other independent promotion in the world. But at the same time, we have to look out for each other. Think about the cage match I had with Jungle Jim last year. Injured my shoulder. I was in a bad way. I had to take some time off because of that. The entire roster came into the cage and checked on me. Why would I not return the favor? You know, as wrestlers, some of us don't like each other. That's just how wrestling goes. But for the rest of the roster, we have to look out for each other. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to honor and respect and stuff. It's not we're going to be best friends, we're going to play hokey pokey, and we're going to be easy on each other. I want guys like Adam Bizarre to hit me as hard as they possibly can because I'm going to hit them as hard as they possibly can. But that doesn't mean after the match, I don't go, "Hey, you all right? Everything okay? You need a ride to the
yeah.
hospital?" You know, or
The
"Hey,
other
can you
the
give him a
other
ride?"
sign that the referee does to indicate he's like, oh, you're okay, or is like the hand signals or stuff. He does up the X and
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys signal to whoever's the cameraman, or at an indie show, it would be like the booker or something. You probably saw his Grimm's match with Emily Saxton, right? He threw up the X.
I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he threw up the
threw up
X.
the X when he threw it, got thrown in the garbage
Hmm.
can,
Yeah.
and then when Lee, I just say people were suspicious. I'll say that. I'm
Hmm.
not saying it was planned, but to
Hey,
be not, but it's your opinion.
all I'm
When it
saying,
hit,
I'm not gonna give an opinion. I'm gonna give you a timeline. Okay.
okay,
I checked. There's two things. I checked on Lacey because I thought she was knocked out and I thought she might be injured. And then
okay,
suddenly, what, a week or two later, Grimm pretends possibly to be injured in order to one up Emily Saxton. Or is this a coincidence? We don't
I,
know. I'm just
I
saying
mean,
two
yeah,
things happened.
like when Lacey hit the chair on the back of Emily Saxton after she kidnapped her.
Yeah, that was a lot, huh?
And when he after he got down and left the ring, Grimm just went up and just like, oh, I'm better. That
Yeah.
I'll just say, that's my opinion. That's a little suspicious, but
And that's
respect
the
to
thing.
Grimm.
Like, would Grimm have been able to beat Emily without that incident, if you want to put it that way? Maybe, possibly, but we'll never know. And that's why I wish we didn't have these type of incidents. You know, I would want it. I would want to see Grimm one-on-one, clean, fair fight beat Emily Saxton, or vice versa. We didn't get that, and that stinks. You know, when I wrestled Emily Saxton, there was tons of controversy. I don't want to win matches that way. You know, I want to show people what I got. Imagine at WrestleMania if Cody Rhodes just like, I don't know, grabbed a steel chair and hit Roman Reigns 15 times and then pinned him. Would you have thought, wow, what a great champion that Cody Rhodes is? Wow, I'm so glad he's the champion now. Like,
Yeah,
no, that would have been so deflating.
perception. Yeah, it's the perception. Like, oh, you're a bad champion. You play dirty. It's like Drew McIntyre. He takes an
Mhm.
opportunity. He takes an opportunity, any opportunity, even though it's dirty.
Exactly. And I think of it this way, like if you're in a last man standing match or something, you got to do what you got to do to get the person down. That's the rules of the match. But there's a difference between that and excessive force in a match that you don't need it. If you didn't have to do it, why are you doing it? That's a personal thing. That's exactly what I'm fighting against. I'm not trying to tell people to not use a weapon in an ODQ match. Do it. It's the rules. What I'm saying is maybe try not to break my ankle outside the ring. You know, that's what I'm getting at. And the sad part is I don't think Grimm needs to do these things in order to be the champion. I think it's all in his head. He couldn't beat Pita Kid. And now look at him, like he's constantly doing all this. He makes fun of Gabe. Gabe Sayers' mother who passed away? Are you kidding me? Like that's not cool, man.
I mean, normally when you say that, you cancel culture would take notice. I'll say that.
Sure, yeah.
But you know,
I don't even think about that. I just think about like respect to another human being.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking about. And right now, Grimm doesn't have that kind of respect, and he definitely doesn't have a respect for me. He's bringing up my wife. You probably haven't seen her around. She doesn't want to come out here for this interview. All she thinks about is that kind of stuff. Like he's been insulting her over and over again. I don't even want her to watch the show right now, unless this is all over with. You know, maybe she'll watch the match where afterwards I go, yeah, I won the title. You know, and she'll feel better. But like, that's not the kind of wrestling I want to be a part of. That's not bell to bell. So I'm trying. That's my whole goal, is to try to fix that. I want to have these great championship matches, and if Grimm wants to keep doing what he's doing, he can go ahead doing it with somebody else, but not as the champion. It's time for a new era, man. It's time for something new. We've seen people get run over. We've seen all the crazy clowns. We've seen all that stuff. I'm ready for something new, and that's the whole thing about pro wrestling right now. The WWE Renaissance is exciting because it's new and it's unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know who's going to beat Cody Rhodes for the title. We don't know who's even we don't know if Gunther's going to be the guy, or if Randy Orton's going to win for the 15th time or whatever. Like, we have no idea.
Yeah, we don't have no idea. Yeah, we don't have
and that's exciting. So my goal is to have that excitement back at GTS. I want people to think of me and think of my title reign and go, wow, like anything, literally, if this guy could win the championship from Grimm at Clash of the White Castle, anything can happen at any time. And I tell you right now, I'd be doing open challenges. I say, hey, OGs, GTS OGs, come on back, because it's not Grimm's time right now. It's my time. I'm going to give you the time of day to come in. I mean, I would love to wrestle like a Pete Corvus. I would love to wrestle a Tommy Salami. Let's make it happen. You know, let's get exciting again. So that's what I'm talking about to everybody. I want to be the champ, but I also want GTS to be as exciting as possible.
Yeah. Then to bring up with the locker room aspect, with the people in the locker room on the roster of GTS, and the people in the locker room on the indie scene when you and Wade were traveling all the Northeast. What are some stories that you could tell from those locker rooms that you want to tell, and to it's some inspiration on future wrestlers?
There's so many stories I could tell you about backstage stuff. I'll give you a really good one, and then we can go on from there. But are you familiar with the Rock and Roll Express? Do you know who they are?
Yeah, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. Yeah,
that's right. My favorite tag team, and great tag team in the '80s. Still great now. To be fair,
yeah, still going in the NWA.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we got the opportunity to wrestle them at an event called the International Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame ceremony, and it was the opening of this legitimate Hall of Fame that you can go to in Albany, New York, where they had a wrestling. Obviously, why not have a wrestling show to kick off this Hall of Fame opening? So they rented out a hockey arena in Utica and had this show, and the StepDads were going to wrestle the Rock and Roll Express in the main event. Very exciting stuff. Very exciting. We have the match. Match goes off great. You know, a couple hundred. I think it was 300-400 fans. Very excited. Great time. After the match, everyone's getting de-geared and stuff, and we're cooling down for the end. And I'm not a super big picture guy. I don't take pictures with like everyone I meet, but I do take pictures with wrestlers I've wrestled because I have that moment and I can tell that story and share that story of wrestling them. So Wade and I are like, hey, let's before Rock and Roll Express leave, we gotta get a photo with him, man. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So we walk over to Ricky Morton and we're like, hey, Ricky, do you mind if we get a photo right before you guys leave? And he looks over at Robert, who's across the locker room. And Robert is, he's just in his underwear. He's just in his underwear, hasn't put his pants on yet, right? And he goes, yes, but we got to do it right now. And I'm like, all right. So we rush over. And
in his underwear.
He's still sitting in a chair in his underwear. And so Ricky runs over. He goes, Robert, we're taking a photo. Sit down. Come here, right here. And he's like, no time. Don't get your pants on. Just do it. And so there's this photo of us, and he's sitting down, so you can't see anything embarrassing. But we are laughing so hard in the photo while he's trying to be like not because he's like, oh Jesus, a breeze between my knees right now. And
trying to keep a straight face.
Oh yeah, and the fact that they could make fun of each other like that at 62 and 63 years old. I was telling Wade, I'm like, we could be a tag team for another 30 years and keep having fun, man. This is so funny. So even in their 60s, they're pranking each other, trying to literally get photos where they're like pants each other, essentially. That kind of stuff is so much fun. That's the backstage atmosphere that I always think about when I talk about positivity and backstage stuff. A lot of guys doing stuff like that. Not pranks per se, but just joking around. A lot of joking around. Oh yeah. I love that kind of stuff.
Even some of those ribs are jokes.
Oh yeah. Many times in matches, you hear or say things that's so silly. Yeah. All the time. I mean, I can't even think of half of them, to be honest. But it's constant. One of my favorite things to do is just walk into the locker room and joke around.
Yeah.
If you can ease that tension, and you're gonna have a good night. And I'm definitely a tension easer kind of guy.
Yeah.
If you ever see any of those GTS like behind the scenes clips, and you'll see me like joking around with Eris or something, like we're always having a good time. So that's like one of my favorite parts of wrestling, really.
Yeah, I can tell you from a previous guest that we had on the show. Mine was one of the local indie guys in here in the state of Virginia, where his name was Urban Legend, not Urban Legend, but Irvin Legend.
Okay.
He told me about this story where he was in the locker room, where he was, I think, out in his car or in the locker room, but he had him match with Kevin Thorne, and Kevin Thorne played a rib and took one of his boots, and what was it? I think he put it in his car, and I think he locked it off. He locked it up. Oh, whoops! That's my Amazon thing. That's my Amazon. For some reason, sorry. That's my Amazon Echo. That went off. I don't know why. Exactly at 6:20, it just goes off randomly. Like I'm about talking about weather, But I don't know why. But as I was saying, he basically put the boot in his car and but Urban Legend persevered. Despite the rib, he went out with one boot.
Oh, there you go.
One boot. He wrestled with one boot on, despite the rib.
I would have done the same thing. There was one time where I was a bad guy. I forgot my elbow pads, and I used to wear elbow pads to the ring. I had custom elbow pads, and I went out there, and as I walked out, like 2 seconds after I walked through the curtain, I immediately went, I left my elbow pads out in my gear bag. And I was like in my head, I'm like, oh no. And so I just walk and the crowd's booing me and everything. And I get into the ring. And nobody knew I was going to do this because obviously nobody knew I forgot my elbow pads. I asked for the microphone, and I got the microphone. I said, "Hey, hold on. I refuse to wrestle until somebody gets me my elbow pads." and the whole crowd's like, "What?"
Wow.
And
Yeah, they played into it. You played into it.
oh
You
yeah,
put
and
that
one of the
into
ring
kayfabe.
crew people came up, and I was like, "Hey, my elbow pads are right on top of my bag. Can you get them for me?" And he runs out, and I'm like, "I'm not moving an inch until I get my elbow pad, including you across the ring. You stayed there. You swear you're gonna
Yeah,
attack my elbows? My elbows are fragile. They're gentle elbows. You don't know about that." And I'm just talking about my elbows, like. And I finally got this. Luckily, found him very quickly, brought him back in,
yeah.
and I'm putting him on. I put on one. I'm like, I'm just milking it at this point. I'm like, I don't know if this is the right elbow pad. It doesn't fit quite right. And then I got the other one. I'm like, okay, all right. You're lucky. You're lucky this time you got the right elbow pads. All right, I guess I'll wrestle now.
Yeah, you turned that legit thing into kayfabe.
Yeah,
That's what you did.
exactly. That's a huge part of wrestling, man. That's a huge part of wrestling. I guarantee you, no matter what match you've seen, if you've any wrestling match you could possibly think of, something happened in that match that none of the participants in the match expected. There's always something happening in every match.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I had a battle royal once where I tried to. I just ran around trying to steal people's shoes. I'm like, well, I'm probably not going to win this one, so I might as well just go out and annoy people. So I would anybody that was like, battle royals, people like hide in corners or they try to grab the bottom rope and they just lay there forever. I'm not having that.
Yeah.
So when I got in, I was going into the corner and I headlock their feet and go, "Give me that shoe!" And I try to take the shoe off. And if I got it, I just throw it across the room and go across the ring, go for someone else's shoe, and they have to go get their shoe.
You should
I
feel
was
like you
menace,
should have put
man.
a spot in there and you turn that into an ankle lock and just like, give me that shoe.
That's right. There's a. I don't know if you're familiar with IWTV, but there was an IWTV broadcast. Yeah, so there was a live IWTV. It was like their second ever live broadcast or something. They had a battle royal, and in the battle royal, like there's all this cool stuff happening, but the only audio you hear is me yelling, "Give me your shoe! That's my shoe now! Give me that shoe!" And then the other person going, "No, that's my shoe! Give me that back!" Oh man, that was oh man,
Wow.
who was that? That was. Give me 1 second. I'll remember in a second here. That was Jamie. Oh yeah, that's Jamie Senegal from TNA. Was who I did that to. If you ever seen Jamie Senegal, great wrestler. But
Jamie Senegal, I've heard of her.
I was trying to steal her shoes that day, along with some other people.
I can tell you there was another thing that was improvised that Vince Series told me. Vince Series said he played tic-tac-toe with a guy who's used their back as a tattoo board, at a tic-tac-toe board, and whoever won, the person who lost gets thrown over the top rope.
I mean, I've seen some weird matches like that, like a match where if you touch the ring ropes at all, you're eliminated. So it's like a floor is lava situation, but you try to whip the guy into the ropes, and he purposely like falls flat on his face because he can't hit the ropes. He's got to do something, so he just falls down. That's a match I think would be fun at GTS, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy match stipulations. There is a lot of different like weapons that people use in matches that I can't even conceive even using, because there was Vince Series said they saw a wiffle ball bat used in a match, and he told me it hurt really hard.
Yeah.
And then when Tarzan Duran, I had him on, and he told me there was this unusual weapon. Get this, a starfish.
That's different. I maybe might beat yours. I know one time, this is in the 2000s. A guy scotch taped a lobster to his wrist and then clotheslined a guy, and the lobster exploded.
What?
So that was a
Wow,
thing.
pretty. That's a
Uh,
lot of improvise.
that was a wild one. I've seen people use swords.
Uh,
I've been DDT'd onto a VCR. That wasn't at GTS, but that's somewhere else. So we were at this company called Truly Independent Wrestling, and Darby Allin was supposed to be on the show, and he was going to have this street fight, and he didn't make his flight. So I had to replace Darby Allin in that match, and I had to do all these wacky hardcore things. I had a bunch of guys with vinyl records, and the vinyl records exploded, and I took a DDT on a VCR, and Wade took a choke slam onto a plastic laundry basket, which you don't think it would hurt, but if it's upside down and you hit it, the little forks go into your skin, and they actually like went through his gear and cut his back up.
Oh.
Yeah, it was bad. Not like hospital bad, but it was gross.
Yeah. Believe it or not, you bring up a floor is lava. They did that on GTS before, believe it or not.
Okay, good.
they did a floor is lava match. I think it was the ring mat that was lava.
Okay.
Or I remember it was the outside that was lava, but I don't remember. But it was so it was so strange and unique about that match. And I think that was like a number contendership or something. That was something weird and something innovative.
That's the kind of stuff I'd like to see more at GTS. And I used to be involved in a lot of stuff like that. I mean, it's funny when we have like a Barbie Battle Royal, for example. That was funny, stuff like that. But I do like the innovative match types, even if it's like, for example, Grimm puts people through tables. Has he ever had an Iron Man tables match? I don't know. You tell me.
An Iron Man tables match. No, I don't think.
Well, there you go. Like, the most he has to put his opponent through a certain amount of tables in 15 minutes to win the match or whatever.
There is a match going to be happening on NXT that there's going to be a Singapore cane match involving like Dante Chen. I think that's on wordplay because Sandman used the Singapore cane, and Dante Chen's actually born in Singapore.
Wow,
so
I see.
I guess that's kind of like wordplay type of match.
Yeah.
But otherwise, somewhat is pretty creative, to be honest.
I've been hit with a Singapore cane. That sucks. It sucks.
I know there's weapons that are quote gimmicked to like those tables. Sometimes you go get like really like weak wood to basically break through, and there's some like ladders that are heard that ladders that are not like actual steel ladders that construction workers go up, but there's gimmick ladders.
Yeah, I think WB is the one that uses some of those. I don't know if other companies do. Maybe.
I'm saying like there's weapons that cannot be gimmicked, like the barbed wire.
Yeah.
That's in the flaming tables. That's not gimmick.
No, can't gimmick flames, man.
Have a Inferno. Ask Edge. Ask Adam Copeland. That was real. That he actually had burns.
That sucks. It really hurts. Jimmy Controversy got burned last year too on GTS.
You have any stories that you could tell from the people that you met in the locker room in GTS?
Stories, their stories. I mean, well, you did just remind me of Jimmy Controversy getting burned. That was interesting. I've never seen a guy that close to me at literally on fire. That was wild. And I've seen a lot of things. I used to live in Las Vegas. I used to see a lot of crazy things happen to people. But I think it was Cletus that made Jimmy go on fire with like I assume it was a flaming table. I can't quite remember. But stories at GTS. Boy, I really have to think about it. I will say, wrestling is not an easy sport. You know, people getting hurt
Yeah,
all the time. So, like, if you ever look at that and go, that guy might be a little hurt. The answer is like 90% of the time they are a little hurt. You know, even if they're fine the next episode, next show, they probably weren't fine that night. You know what I mean? I see a lot of people getting fixed up and bandaged up and stuff. There was a guy that broke their arm on GTS last year. It was like a stuntman or something that jumped off the top rope. Did you see that clip? It was he did like a springboard and tried to go to a table and he missed and like completely broke his arm. I don't remember his name though. I
Oh,
wasn't there that day.
oh, oh, oh,
It's
I
like
know what you mean.
crazy
Well, he
something,
broke
crazy
his
Steve. I don't know, something like that.
crazy,
Crazy Eddie,
crazy Mike, crazy
Crazy
Mike.
Mike. Yes, Crazy Mike. There you
Yeah,
go.
he was a
Yeah, he definitely lived up to his name.
yeah. I know you're not a man of profanity because you only use oh heck yeah, but
That's
you don't
right.
use profane yet. But you know, Crazy Steve, he's like a guy that you would see on Pro Wrestling Venom. Like, so
Hmm.
you talk about Jimmy Controversy. He came up with Pro Wrestling Venom
Yeah.
and become like a CZW type of wrestling, uncensored type of wrestling.
Pro Wrestling Venom is lucky in that they're doing it for the passion. They're not really doing it for the money. I'm sure you've noticed Jimmy Controversy doesn't always pay his roster. But at the same time, they don't make the kind of money that GTS makes. And that's because YouTube doesn't allow that kind of monetization for death matches and stuff.
Yeah.
But that being said, I give Pro Wrestling Venom a lot of credit because I don't know if you know, they're doing a show at the end of the month that has no ring. It's a no ring show. And it's got a bunch of deathmatch guys on it. Yeah. So, you know, you and your fans can look it up. There's a no ring deathmatch show happening with Pro Wrestling Venom. So even though they're not really on GTS anymore, like you don't really see the Pro Wrestling Venom title that much anymore. It's still out there. Jimmy's not in charge. Dirty Ron's in charge, but you know, now all those guys are still doing their thing. They still want to do deathmatch wrestling, and I heavily respect deathmatch wrestling. I think guys like Mikey Anarchy are going to be awesome, and they're already doing great in the deathmatch scene. I see it just like we talk about with WWE and AEW. I think all styles of pro wrestling are equal. I think they're all to be respected, and I don't see. Yeah, I don't see deathmatch wrestling as garbage or anything like that. I think it's all great, and if you're the best at it, that's something to be proud of. Believe it or not, I've had death matches before. Now, am I looking forward to doing one again anytime soon? Probably not. But I've been there. I've had the crimson mask, the blood. I've had the barbed wire wrapped around me and stuff around my arm. Like, it's a whole nother world, man. It's a whole nother world to be in the ring like that in that situation. I don't envy him. I respect him.
Yeah, kayfabe is a thing that can be like manipulated into real life, but it's not like the CM Punk Drew thing. Like, but they brought up not by name, but the stuff that he went through with AEW with the fallout and stuff.
Sure.
And Drew McIntyre is just making a mockery of him every single week, you know? He has to mention him every single week, you know? And that's like kayfabe, like they can push the boundaries of kayfabe in WWE's case, PG.
And in a lot of cases, I feel like modern pro wrestling, kayfabe is really just a clearer way to explain a story that, and a lot of times is real, is a very real story. It's just a more because real life is messy, man. You know, some people have different emotions. They change their mind. It's hard to get a clear story. Kayfabe kind of clears that up. It says, this is the story. This is a good guy and this is a bad guy of our story. Maybe that'll change, maybe it won't. But they try to make it clear. And that's what I appreciate about kayfabe. It's kind of like when you see a documentary and they have a single vision. And maybe, it might not be perfect to real life, but they're trying to clarify it to you, so you at least understand the vision and understand the story being told. That's really what kayfabe is nowadays. Because in a lot of times, if you see two guys that do not like each other,
Yeah.
hey, maybe they don't like each other. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's not all an act or some persona that they put on.
Yeah.
If you see Grimm say, "I don't like that guy" on one of his vlogs, probably doesn't like that guy. You know what I mean? And I will say, at least Grimm respects me. He was the one that said that he still respects me and my skills, and I will always say that I respect him and his skills. And you know, it's just a different ideal right now, and I don't appreciate what he said about my wife, but there's still respect there.
Like in the past, like when you look at kayfabe, like when what's it? ECW did a lot of stuff that break the fourth wall, where Paul
Mm-hmm.
Heyman's like, JBL, the reason why you were champion for a
Yeah.
year because Triple H does not want to work Tuesday, like that type of thing, where
Mm-hmm.
where like sometimes you don't know if it's the kayfabe talking or if it's the actual persona putting on the kayfabe,
Sure.
or just the real person behind, like real Paul Heyman, you know?
But that's the fun of pro wrestling, isn't it? You want to
Yeah,
believe, and if they
yeah,
make you believe, then you know you're going to enjoy the ride. And it's really easy to make you believe if it's real. You know what I mean? I'm not saying wrestlers are great actors, so if you feel it and you feel what they're saying in your heart, probably real.
yeah. You know what I thought of doing when I wanted to get like a WWE replica belt? You know the 24/7 championship, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 24/7 championship was disbanded in ironically the year that you debuted in GTS, where he was thrown in the garbage can, but they botched that. They
Yeah, yeah, they
botched
did.
putting it in the garbage can, and I want to see if I could get a replica belt, replica 24/7 championship, and play off the fact that I found it in my garbage can, and maybe when I go to my local indie show, Virginia Championship Wrestling, a good run by a good man, Jerry Stepanitsis. I'm gonna shout out to him and all
Yeah.
those wrestlers that I was on the show. The first man the reason why I came, Matt Cardona. But the real thing, I wanted to see and wanted to live stream it and talk the kayfabe, and then like before then I want to try to get one of the people that play a heel and try to like roll me up, and the other friends just count the pin as if they were the referee, and then
Mhm.
they get the title and they run off as like they just belittle me and say you're a mark and you're not fit for this business, like how people say it about Grimm
Oh yeah.
before stepping into GTS. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
that's
I
fun.
I even said something like, was it Logan Easton LaRoe? There's another
Hmm.
indie guy in the East,
Yeah.
where at the end of the show there was a tag match where he took out his wrist tape and threw it in my older brother's direction. And you know what he did? He threw it back, and and he and he told him like, oh, get in the ring. Like, you know, I really want to just like turn that into something. Like if it's just the jokes, or if it's playing off and helping, like feeding to the story and stuff, I would
Hmm.
love it, even if it's not in an in-ring capacity. you know
Absolutely.
yeah,
Wrestling at its core is all stories, man. You just got to have fun with it. Got to join in the
yeah,
stories.
yeah. um there Now we're gonna have one end off of, and that is the predictions for Clash at the White Castle.
All right.
So the other two matches, Mikey Anarchy, the hardcore champion,
Hmm.
versus Venom Wife, Gabe Sayers. What are you thinking?
Okay, so do you know the history of Mikey Anarchy and Gabe Sayers?
To be honest, no.
Hey, that's okay. Don't worry.
Uninformed.
So Mikey Anarchy is Gabe Sayers' first wrestling opponent ever. So Gabe was kind of like you, kind of like a lot of people that do podcasts. He was doing podcasts. He did live streaming. He was a gamer, and he called out Mikey Anarchy online, and they had like beef for a couple of months, right? They decided to meet up. They had a death match. Mikey beat him. And that was the proof in the pudding, man, because other deathmatch companies saw that footage and was like, hey, we'd like to hire you. And next thing you know, Gabe Sayers is going out to Underground Wrestling Federation. And now he runs a company called the TF Crew. So if you look up the TF Crew, you'll see Mikey Anarchy and a couple of guys like, if you've been watching GTS recently, there's a guy named Doc Holliday on there who is an old friend of mine from over 10 years ago. I wrestled Doc Holliday over 10 years ago in Allentown, PA. But and we haven't clashed at GTS yet.
The backyard. Like the backyard.
Yeah, exactly. So on the TF Crew shows, I'm going to be debuting there in June 15th. That's this weekend. I'll be debuting there. So I'll be seeing Gabe Sayers and all them. Yeah. So for them to be having this match, it's probably not going to be mentioned much on GTS, but there's a lot of history there. They know each other like the back of each other's hands. And a lot of the times, Mikey Anarchy has had Gabe's number. Not every time, but a lot of times. I think it's a matter of how extreme this hardcore match is going to be. It's for the most prestigious hardcore title in all of YouTube. You know, take any other YouTube wrestling company. This is the big one. This is right up both their alleys. I think if the match is short, Gabe has a chance because he's got a lot of heart. You saw his match with Grimm, right? He's got a lot of heart. And that's that's already wrestling a match. And then he wrestled Grimm, you know?
Yeah.
That's a lot of heart, man. Yeah. But if the weapons start coming out and the match is getting a little longer, I think Mikey Anarchy's going to have it. I don't know if it's Gabe Sayers' time yet, man. I don't know if the hardcore title is his title to win. So if I had to pick one today, I think it's Mikey Anarchy. But Gabe Sayers getting that upset that'd be amazing. An amazing upset. So it's possible, but I'm going to go with Mikey Anarchy. He just won the title. He's on fire right now. He's still the Pro Wrestling Venom champion. And I've been in the ring with Mikey Anarchy. It's like fighting a monster.
He's like Nick Gage.
He is like Nick Gage. It's like Matt Tremont. It's like he is so tough. I was in that ladder match with him at Grim Mania, and he had me. At one point, I didn't even realize it. I was tapping out when he was jarring the ladder against my forehead. If this was a normal match, I would have lost. There was a time where I couldn't get up. He could have pinned me. Like there was all these, but there was no rules because it was a ladder match. He could have won in any of these different ways, but thank goodness because it was a ladder match, I was able to win the match. I was able to survive long enough to get up there and get that ladder. So I think Mikey Anarchy is the future of deathmatch wrestling. I think he's already a huge force in LTW, in TF Crew, in GTS, all these big companies he's doing right now. I think it's onward and upward for him. Gabe Sayers' time will come. Yeah. Could be in 3 months, could be in a year, but right now it's Mikey Anarchy's time. And maybe after I win the legendary YouTube title, Grimm and Mikey Anarchy can finally have their match because they've been beefing lately. Have a match for the hardcore title. Maybe they'll do that at Sucker Slam or something like that. I'd like to see that. Well, so my vote is Mikey Anarchy.
Mikey Anarchy. Okay. What about the veteran versus the rookie? E-Money Millie, the United States champion, or Mike Goldstein?
So on the most recent episode of GTS, I was there when Goldstein betrayed Mikey Anarchy in their tag team title match. And I told Mikey to use this as fuel to be motivated because right now he's the United States champion. He's the top champion in the nation. And he won it from me. So like you gotta elevate yourself to that level and be the man. and we have yet to see Millie. We've yet to see Millie defend the title. He has yet to defend the title. He has yet to be able to prove that he's the champion of the United States. So this is really his big proving ground moment. If he starts to get comfortable because he's the champion, he's going to lose. Mike Goldstein is a former GTS champion. He's a former YouTube champion. He's former Intercontinental champion. He's had every single belt except the United States title.
Yeah.
If he wins it, he'll become a Grand Slam champion. That's a huge accomplishment at GTS. Not everyone gets to do that. So for Goldstein, the motivation is money. For Millie, it's about his future as a wrestler, trying to go up the ladder. I really want Millie to win. But my money has to go to Goldstein just because he has the experience. And it's hard to go against the guy with the most experience. I'm sure you've noticed both my picks are the guys with the most experience. Because if Millie wins, even though he is the champion, it will be an upset. Millie's never defeated. As far as I remember, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know if he's ever defeated a former YouTube Wrestling Figures champion. So if that's the case, he's either going to prove it and elevate that title even further and prove that he can be the man, or Goldstein's going to become a Grand Slam champion. And that's also a huge accomplishment as United States champion to have that title at that level. You know, he's had all the other ones. Now that U.S. title is at the top of the heap. So, I'm going to go with Goldstein on this one. But I want Millie to win. I want the upset. Yeah. But, I'm being logical. My pick is Goldstein.
Yeah. Yeah. I agreed with you before you came on. I agreed with you with Mikey Anarchy. But like I said, I wanted Eat Me Money Millie to, since he's a champion, that's his first, he just got the title. You would think, he's not gonna lose it that quick,
I would hope not.
But you never know. Never say never. But I'd say Eat Money Millie. But for the GTS fans and the Step fans that are watching this live, and here's a question for you: who do you root on, the main character Grimm, or this guy, the one half of the Stepdads, the longest reigning Intercontinental champion, the former United States champion, the Workhorse Double Crown, the person that can tell you not to touch the thermostat, and the man that is going to say, oh, heck yeah, to when he wins that GTS legendary YouTube championship at Clash at the White Castle. Rad Dad, I'm honored that you were on this podcast. I'm honored to see you go into Clash at the White Castle for that championship against Grimm, and I will eat that up.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be on tonight. I'm glad I was able to talk to you and all the Step fans, all the GTS fans that are either rooting for Grimm, rooting for me. Either way, I thank them for watching tonight. And I hope at the end of the day, I inspire them. I make them proud. I show that there's great wrestling happening at GTS, and there's a lot of future stars coming up that if I'm able to even just slightly inspire any of them, be the E-Money Millies or the Jack Martins of the future of wrestling, if I can do that, that's my whole goal. That's all I want to do is inspire those people. And I think the best way to do that is to become the GTS legendary YouTube champion. That's my goal. But either way, thank you all for watching tonight. Now live or in future airings. Please keep watching this guy. I like this guy. I want to point your way there. I like this guy. He's gonna.
I tried to point.
I know. I gotta do one of these.
Hold on. Oh, there you go.
Anyway, all right. Anyway, but and I hope you keep interviewing guys at GTS because the GTS stories are just gonna keep moving on and on and on and on. And maybe when I got the title, the next couple guys you interview in the future, you'll be like, oh, you want a shot, Rad Dad, and hopefully we can make those happen. You know, just keep it going. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep it alive. I know you haven't done a podcast in a hot minute with some GTS guests, but I hope you do more sooner and later, and keep having fun with it. GTS it's supposed to be fun. Pro wrestling's supposed to be fun. So as long as you're having fun, I'm having fun. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Heck yeah!
Oh, heck yeah! You guys at GTS, Clash at the White Castle.